Chapter 2462. As soon as the mad old hound moved, the thunderclouds above him seemed to be on a rampage. Hundreds of thunderbolts struck down. This time, they were not aimed at Lu Li, but at the mad old hound. T. I've been implicated. The mad old dog swore. It was Lu Li who was going to go through the thunder tribulation. What the mad old dog did was to help Lu Li attract the thunder tribulation. His body flew outwards, but the lightning chased after him and struck his body. Green smoke rose from the old mad dog's body as he trembled uncontrollably. His eyes were filled with shock. This lightning wasn't true annihilation thunder. He had encountered true annihilation thunder during his sixth heavenly tribulation, and its might wasn't as tyrannical as this. Lu Li's eyes glowed when he saw smoke coming out of the mad dog's body, and his eyes filled with surprise. He pondered for a moment, then flew up and charged at the old mad dog. The old mad dog should be injured. Lu Li didn't want to give him any chance to breathe. Even if he could not kill him with thunderbolts, he must injure him badly. Whoosh, his speed was many times faster than before. In the blink of an eye, he had reached Old Mad Dog. Old Mad Dog was still trembling. Seeing that Lu Li was coming, the tens of thousands of thunder dragons whooshed down. Dozens of them were aimed at Lu Li, and hundreds of others were coming to Lu Li. "Little bastard, you're courting death." The mad old dog was enraged. He raised his hand and slapped at Lu Li. Lu Li was smashed away. Blood gushed out from his mouth, and his chest caved in. There was no doubt about the old mad hound's attacking power. If it were not for the fact that Lu Li had released the dragon skill and his initial success in the immortal body, which made his defense much stronger than before, Lu Li would have been killed by the old mad hound. Of course, the old mad dog was worried about the thunder and lightning, so he did not release a powerful killer move in a hurry. Boom, boom, boom. Hundreds of lightning dragons smashed into the old mad dog's body again. More black smoke rose from the old mad dog's body, and his body trembled. He glared at Lu Li, only to see that Lu Li seemed to be fine after being hit by dozens of thunderbolts. More importantly, he found that Lu Li's wounds were recovering quickly. Lu Li's chest was caved in by Lu Li, but now it seemed to be completely healed. This isn't an ordinary lightning. It should be the auspicious lightning of a lesser success divine physique. Mad Old came back to his senses. The thunderbolts might be horrifying to them, but not to Lu Li. Not only could thunderbolts not kill Lu Li, but they could also heal and purify his body. The golden glare in the thunderbolts was a kind of origin energy in heaven and earth. It could help Lu Li strengthen his body and heal his wounds. In other words, the thunderbolts could not kill Lu Li. When Lu Li was injured, the thunderbolts would heal him, unless Lu Li could be killed in one move. Boom, boom, boom. The thunderclouds in the sky trembled as the third bolt of lightning descended. There were hundreds of times more lightning than the second bolt, and there were at least 1,000,000 lightning dragons that covered the surrounding millions of kilometers. The lightning bolts flew in all directions, causing the space around them to tremble violently, greatly reducing the speed of the people who were fleeing. Go! Mad as Mad Old was, he was not an idiot. Thousands of thunderbolts were coming at him. The closer he was to Lu Li, the more thunderbolts he would attract. If Lu Li dashed over, half of the thunderbolts would land on Mad Old. The thunderbolts could not kill Mad Old for now, but if he were struck by tens of thousands of thunderbolts, he would be seriously injured. By the fourth strike, he might be killed. Mad Old was confident that he could kill Lu Li in one move, but he was not sure. If Lu Li was killed, would the subsequent thunderbolts be transferred to him? If it was transferred to him, he would definitely die. Mad Old was the most promising warrior of the Wu family to reach the Emperor realm. He didn't want to die here. It would not be worthwhile for him to die because of a puny warrior. Therefore, Mad Old decided to leave. Boom, boom, boom. Mad Old was struck by thousands of thunderbolts. He was injured again. Without any hesitation, Mad Old flew away in a blur. Whoosh! Lu Li dashed out from the island. He glanced over and saw that many warriors were killed by thunderbolts. He put on a cruel smile. He took out a set of armor and put it on. Then, he shot forward like an arrow. Every time, thunderbolts would hurt him and hurt him. but the golden thunderbolts and the thunderbolts would heal his body quickly. Just now, he was attacked by Mad Old, and his wounds were healed in an instant, which surprised and delighted him. He was almost immortal under thunderbolts, as long as he was not killed instantly. If so, what was there to be afraid of? He dashed on at the top of his speed. He was as fast as a warrior of the fifth tribulation. He went to the west, because that was the place with the most people. No matter for what reason they came here, none of them were here to save him. They were here to kill him or to laugh at him. Why would he show them mercy? Boom, 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 the fifth lightning bolt descended. This time, a total of 10 million lightning bolts descended, enveloping an area of 10 million kilometers. Moreover, the lightning bolts caused the space around them to tremble violently. The speed of those who were fleeing was greatly reduced, and some were even unable to fly. Many people screamed for their parents and ran around, especially the young masters and young ladies. They were just here to enjoy the show. Little did they expect that they would be in such a predicament. Fortunately, the thunderbolts were mainly concentrated around Lu Li. With Lu Li as the center, the thunderbolts were the densest. Thunderbolts fell down like rain, so dense that it was quite scary. In other areas, there were fewer thunderbolts. The further away from Lu Li, the less thunderbolts there were. But no matter how many thunderbolts there were, the space within a radius of tens of thousands of miles was trembling. Everyone felt like they were a boat in a raging sea, swaying from side to side and unable to escape. Whoosh! Lu Li dashed over with thousands of thunderbolts. The warriors nearby were scared out of their wits. A young master's lips turned pale. He yelled in terror, "Successor of 1,000 transformations, don't come over. We are just here to have a look. We are not here to kill you." A young lady trembled in fear. Tears welled up in her eyes. She said with trembling lips, "Successor of 1,000 transformations, we are not here to kill you. We are just here to enjoy the show." "Enjoy the show?" Lu Li grinned and said with a sneer, "You are here to see how I die, right? If you have the guts to come here, then you should be prepared to die." Lu Li dashed over. Dozens of warriors were drowned in thunderbolts. There was a fifth-rank warrior who used a piece of artifact as a shield. When Lu Li got closer, thousands of thunderbolts struck, and that warrior was reduced to ashes. "Keep going." Lu Li flew over and used psychic power to check. When he saw several patriarchs of the Wu family, he dashed over like a mad dragon and chased after them. The space here was trembling, but it did not affect Lu Li. As a matter of fact, the reason why everyone was slowed down was not because of the space trembling, but because their divine energy was disturbed. Divine energy was the source of strength. When it was disturbed, one could not speed up. Lu Li was only relying on his physical strength, so his speed was not affected. He dashed on like a mad dragon and soon caught up with the patriarchs of the Wu family. Charge! There were 4 patriarchs of the Wu family here. They knew they could not get away, so they might as well kill Lu Li. Chapter 2463. Purgatory. Apart from a small number of old demons that ran away at the beginning, such as Master Red Sun and some others, the rest were all trapped inside. There were more and more thunderbolts. Those inside could not get out yet, and they wouldn't be able to later. Master Red Sun stood on the sea outside, looking at the falling thunderbolts. He and the old demons looked at each other without saying anything. The others were somewhat baffled, but Master Scarlet Sun was the only one who could guess a little. Initial success of the immortal body and the tribulation of thunder. Master Red Sun sighed. He knew that most of the people inside were doomed. This tribulation thunder was not an average one. Even though Lu Li would be half dead, he would not die in the end. None of the others could stand it. Even Wu Qing would have a hard time. As for the mad old dog, he ran away just now. Master Red Sun saw it with his own eyes. Boom, boom, boom. Tens of thousands of thunderbolts were falling down. It was a breathtaking scene. Everyone inside used all kinds of treasures or means to stop the thunderbolts. Lu Li was wandering around inside. The thunderbolts around him were the densest. There were thunderbolts whooshing towards him almost constantly. Therefore, no matter which direction he flew to, thunderbolts would fall down. Once there were people around him, most of the thunderbolts would be aimed at them, Many people were burnt to ashes and smashed into the sea. Luli flew over and put away the interspatial rings, relic weapons, and armors. He was overjoyed. The four patriarchs of the Wu family were killed. There must be a lot of wealth in their interspatial rings. There are old demons and patriarchs of the Wu family over there. Luli didn't care about the young masters, young ladies, and young warriors anymore. He used his psychic power to the extreme and scanned the nearby area. Soon he put on a smile. He found Wu Qing and a patriarch hiding under a reef. There were dozens of young warriors nearby. Wu Qing was smart enough to think of a covert plan. Whoosh, Luli flew over at once. The dozens of young warriors lost all hope when they saw Luli coming at them. They didn't care about Wu Qing and the patriarch anymore. They tried their best to fly away in all directions. Boom, boom, boom. Under the tens of thousands of thunderbolts, dozens of warriors were turned into ashes in an instant. Wu Qing and the other patriarch looked at each other. Then they rushed towards Luli. Rip. Luli released the ghost cut from a distance. A ray of sword light dashed toward Wu Qing and Luli after several turns. The saber light wasn't very powerful. The problem was the saber light would draw in the nearby heaven and earth powers. As the power of heaven and earth flowed over, the nearby lightning powers would naturally be drawn in as well. In an instant, tens of thousands of lightning powers surged forward, and Wu Qing and Jian Shaotian were enveloped by the lightning powers. Crack, 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 the two of them were struck by the lightning until their bodies were smoking and their teeth were chattering. The two of them took out their treasures to block a portion of the lightning. Otherwise, they would have been in a terrible state. Rip! Luli took out his saber. He kept releasing the Slayer's ghost slash to attract thunderbolts. Wu Qing bellowed, "Bastard, even if I have to die, I will drag you down with me." Huh! Wu Qing roared. After that, a long spear appeared in his hand as his body shone with a blinding radiance. The long spear in his hand trembled as he stabbed out violently. Rip! Everywhere the spear was at, space would be torn apart. A shadow of the spear stabbed toward Luli in the speed of lightning. Luli had no time to react or dodge. Seeing that the spear was about to hit his head, he had to lean back. Bang! The spear reached Luli's chest. A bloody hole appeared. The spear went through him and came out from the back of his neck, almost hitting his head. Go to hell. Luli kept releasing the Slayer's ghost cut in a rage. Countless thunderbolts whooshed on. This time, Wu Qing could not stand it anymore. Soon, he was badly injured and fell to the ground. The other patriarch took action as well. After a flash of light, Luli's back was left with a deep wound. A fifth tribulation warrior's attack was not weak. If it were not for the fact that Luli had a minor completion in the immortal body, he would not have survived. Whoosh, 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 countless thunderbolts landed on Luli. His body was burnt over and over again, but he would recover quickly. His previous wounds were recovering as well. Every time between destruction and rebirth, his body would be improved. Go on. After Wu Qing and the other patriarch died, Luli put away their interspatial rings and rushed toward another direction. This time, there were many warriors. Those warriors had been dominating the Silver Flames Sea for years. Now that they could survive, they must have a lot of wealth in their interspatial rings. How could Luli miss such a good chance? He flew over like a gust of wind. He used psychic power to check and saw several warriors. When the old demons saw Luli rushing over, their faces turned pale with fright. One of them shouted at once, "Brother, calm down. We are not enemies. I once had a relationship with the king of thousand changes." Swish! What answered the warriors was a ray of sword light followed by thousands of thunderbolts. The warriors ran around, screaming for their parents. But where could they run to when there were so many thunderbolts? So miserable. Outside, Master of Red Sun and the others had been checking inside with psychic power. Master of Red Sun wanted to see Luli being killed, but after Wu Qing and the others were killed by thunderbolts, Master of Red Sun knew there was no hope. The warriors in the area of thunderbolts could only use 50 or 60% of their abilities. It was impossible for them to kill Luli. Not many of them could make it out. There were thunderbolts everywhere. It was difficult to move through the area of thunderbolts. Boom, boom, boom. None of the tens of thousands of young masters and young ladies made it out. Luli didn't even have to guide thunderbolts over. They were all killed by the random thunderbolts. Whoosh! 17 warriors were lucky enough to make it out of the area of thunderbolts by a hair's breadth. They didn't stop. They ran to the distance quickly. An hour later, there was nobody left in the area of thunderbolts. Everyone was killed. Even so, the thunderbolts didn't stop. They kept on coming. Luli put away all the interspatial rings. He was overjoyed. He had made a fortune this time. The patriarchs of the Wu family and the warriors must have great wealth in their interspatial rings. He wondered how many divine stones and treasures he could get this time. Whoosh! Luli flew out of the area of thunderbolts quickly. He sensed that Master Red Sun and the others were outside. Let's go. Seeing that Luli was coming, Master Red Sun and the others didn't dare to stay any longer. They sped up and ran to the distance. Luli chased after them for a while. He had to stop when he realized he couldn't catch up with them. Boom, boom, boom. Thunder and lightning continued to rumble. There were also some scouts from various clans hiding in the nearby sea. When they saw this terrifying scene, all of their hearts palpitated. They all knew that after today, the Silver Flame Sea would be turned upside down. Dozens of warriors and 10 patriarchs of the Wu family had died. It was impossible not to make a scene. Would Emperor Yang be enraged? Would he do it himself? If the Arch was enraged, the entire Silver Flame Sea region would probably tremble, right? P.S. I am tired. I only wrote 2 chapters in one morning and one afternoon. I am exhausted both physically and mentally. Chapter 2464. Sunlight Emperor was not enraged because the Wu family patriarch did not report this to Sunlight Emperor. The Wu family patriarch, on the other hand, was enraged. More than half of the powerful warriors of the Wu family activated the space portals and teleported to the blazing island. The lightning tribulation lasted for only 2 hours. When it was over, Luli used his skill to fly across the void. Under the watch of some scouts, he flew to the north. As a matter of fact, Luli knew about the scouts, but he did not kill them because he did not want others to know that he had flown away. He kept flying to the north. Every time, he would stop for a while so that people nearby could see him. After flying through the void 5 times, he entered a city, put on a disguise, and teleported away. After teleporting dozens of times, he quietly left the city. After putting on a disguise, he flew through the void and left. This time, he flew towards the south. That's right, he had turned back. After flying through the void 3 times, he found that there was no one nearby. He immediately disguised himself and entered the city, teleporting towards the blazing island. The most dangerous place was the safest. Luli knew that the Wu family would be enraged after he killed so many warriors of the Wu family. Many powerful warriors would come after him. It was dangerous for him to fly across the void. Therefore, he flew to the north on purpose and then came back. His divine body had just achieved initial success, and it was not stable yet. He needed time to stabilize his realm. Undoubtedly, cultivating in the white flames was safe. More importantly, his divine body had achieved initial success. His chi and energy seemed to have changed. He felt he had a different body. He believed that even if there were soul chasers in the Silver Flame Sea, they would not be able to track him down. The blazing island was full of flames which could isolate his chi and energy. So many people had died there. How could anyone go there? In the area of white flames, only warriors of the Sixth Tribulation would be able to sense his presence. Of course, hiding on Blazing Island also posed a certain level of danger. If a few Sixth Tribulation experts from the Wu clan came, he would have nowhere to escape to in Blazing Island. Flying across the void was dangerous. After much consideration, Luli decided to stay on the Blazing Island for a while. The first was to refine his body, and the second was to stay out of the limelight. Luli teleported along the way. After hundreds of teleportations, he hid in a small city. He bribed a waiter to gather information from the outside world while he secluded himself in his room. It was a mess out there. The Wu family had mobilized over 1,000,000 warriors to hunt him down. 5 of the 6 tribulation warriors of the Wu family were sent out, including the mad old man, to the north. At the moment, the north was surrounded by dozens of interception nets. If Lu Li were to fly across the void to the north, he would be discovered immediately. Lu Li stayed in the city for 10 days. The city was peaceful. There were scouts in the city, but nobody had locked onto him. No powerful warriors came over either. Lu Li set off secretly. He even faked his identity as a scout of small family. That scout was killed by him, and the identity token was taken by him. All the information matched. Lu Li teleported all the way to the Blazing Island. It took him 10 days to teleport to a place nearby and sneak into the Blazing Island on his own. There was not a single person near the Blazing Island. So many people had died here, and after such a fierce battle, who would stay here? Making sure that nobody was around, Lu Li entered the Blazing Island and went directly to the White Flame area. His divine body had a small success, and he had refined the blessing fruit. His resistance to fire had increased greatly. Although he was burned by the White Flame, he could resist it easily. Lu Li did not cultivate after he arrived. Instead, he asked Blood Fairy if she dared to come out. If Blood Fairy could come out, she could set up some divine runes and restrictions. That would be safer. I'm fine. Blood Fairy snuck out from Lu Li's body. As a soul, she was only afraid of soul attacks, not physical ones. However, it did not dare to test Destructive Blaze. This white flame was still unable to harm it. Lu Li did not expect that white flame would not affect Blood Fairy. If he had known, he would have asked Blood Fairy to build some teleportation formations. Lu Li thought about it and asked Blood Fairy to build some one-way teleportation formations. After all, he couldn't fly here. He could teleport as long as he left Blazing Island. It was easy to build a one-way teleportation formation. It took Lu Li 2 days to finish. Then, Lu Li built some inhibition formations on the periphery and asked Blood Fairy to build some formations of illusion, confusion, and destruction. He had set up all the divine runes he could. He did not expect the teleportation formations to be able to withstand the enemy's attacks. He just hoped that he could have a chance to escape. While Blood Fairy was working, Lu Li refined his body in peace. He had achieved initial success in his divine body. Lu Li believed that in terms of defense, strength, and speed, he could compare with warriors of the 5th tribulation. What surprised Lu Li was his energy had changed. Previously, when others looked at him, he was at the peak of the 2nd tribulation. Now, when someone checked, Lu Li was at the peak of the 3rd tribulation. Does one lightning test mean I have passed the heavens test? Lu Li could not figure it out. In any case, it was a good thing that he could reach the peak of the 3rd tribulation. Lu Li relied on his physical strength, and he no longer valued his realm. That being said, the energy at the peak of the 2nd tribulation was easily underestimated. On the other hand, the energy at the peak of the 3rd tribulation would not be so obvious. While cultivating divine energy, Lu Li relied on the flames to refine his body. Every now and then, he would go out and consume dozens of herbs. Then, he would come back in and consume the energy. He planned to consume all of that stump. He even dug out the roots. Almost all the fire ants were consumed by him. As long as nobody came to disturb him, he planned to cultivate here for a few years. For one thing, he could stabilize his divine body, and for another, he could lie low. Also, he had a vague feeling that his second-rate divine body was different from before. Perhaps there would be some special divine abilities, but he needed time to explore them. Soon, half a year had passed. The Blazing Island had been quiet. Nobody came. Though many people were still discussing, nobody came. Everyone had gathered at the north. Their attention was on the north, because something interesting happened at the north. Warriors and powerful warriors of the Wu family were ambushed. It was not just 1 or 2. Many were killed. Many mysterious people showed up. They were running around and killing people. The situation was a mess. The Wu family had been tracking Lu Li. Now that Luli was missing, why were there so many mysterious people? Someone wondered. Those mysterious people were in cahoots with the ones that attacked the battleships of the Blazing Island. Since they were dressed alike and their backgrounds were mysterious, no one could find out who they were after they were killed. Some even suspected that Luli was with those people. Those people were the surviving forces of Emperor Z. They had come to the Silver Flames Sea to seek revenge. No matter what, the waters had been muddied. The Wu family had mobilized 1 million people, but over 100,000 of them had been killed in half a year. More than 10 elders of the Wu family had died as well. The Wu family patriarch had personally gone to the north to oversee things. Eventually, Sunlight Emperor learned of this. It was impossible to keep such a serious matter from him. However, Sunlight Emperor was not angry when he was informed. He only told the Wu family patriarch to deal with it and not to disturb him unless it was a matter of life and death. Chapter 2465. Who were those mysterious people? This question lingered in the minds of everyone on the Silver Flame continent. However, one thing was certain. This group of mysterious people was not from the Silver Flame Sea region. The major forces of the Silver Flame Sea region knew each other very well. They even knew how many experts each family and faction had. Although there were countless old demons in the Silver Flame Sea region, it was impossible for them to join forces. Even if they joined forces, the Wu family had killed dozens of people, but not a single one of them had been identified. In other words, the dozens of people who were killed were not from the Silver Flame Sea region. Among the people who were killed, there were more than 10 Fifth Tribulation experts. Only superpowers could mobilize so many Fifth Tribulation experts. That could only be people from other continents. To the north of the Silver Flame Sea was the Flying Fire continent, and to the south was the Divine Wind continent. It was unlikely for the Divine Wind continent to do so, as the Divine Wind continent's major factions would not dare to become enemies with the Silver Flame Sea region's major factions. There was only one possibility left. This group of people came from the Flying Fire continent. The Soaring Fire continent was the second largest continent within the third layer of the heavens. There were as many experts as there were clouds in the sky, as well as countless great factions and ancient races. It was understandable that a superpower would come to the Silver Flame Sea region to stir up trouble. The Flying Fire continent's superpowers were attacking the Silver Flame Sea region. The news quickly spread throughout the entire Silver Flame Sea region. At the same time, the Wu family patriarch also gathered the patriarchs of the other forces and some old demons of the Silver Flame Sea region to gather at Go-Di City in the north. The Heavenly Flame Island's warship had been attacked, and the Wu family's men had been killed. This time, the battle had started in the north. The north side was Go-Di's territory. Making a move in Go-Di's territory was disrespectful to the Go clan. This time, they had offended the 3 major powers. The old demons of the Silver Flame Sea region were also furious. If only 1 or 2 old demons had entered, it wouldn't have mattered. In fact, if this faction appeared openly and wanted to fight for hegemony in the Silver Flame Sea region, it would be understandable. However, this force was secretive and specialized in crafty plots, which inevitably aroused the disgust of some old devils. Although the old demons of the Silver Flame Sea region were constantly fighting amongst themselves and often fought to the death, the old demons of the Silver Flame Sea region never stopped fighting amongst themselves. However, they had stayed in the Silver Flame Sea region for many years and had long regarded this place as their home. It was normal for a family to fight and quarrel, but if outsiders came to bully them, they would unite against them. The experts in King Go City gathered, and the major factions quickly came to an agreement. They each mobilized their men to search for this mysterious group of people. They would try their best to capture them alive and find a way to interrogate the mastermind behind this. Countless people activated the teleportation portals, and a few large clans offered sky-high rewards, calling for everyone in the Silver Flame Sea region to move out and defend against the foreign enemies. Countless powerful warriors swarmed toward the north, tracking down those mysterious warriors all over the world. At this moment, People seemed to have forgotten about Luli. Subconsciously, they thought Luli was with those warriors. The reason why the mysterious people were making a scene at the north of the Silver Flame Seas was to take Luli away. Luli, on the other hand, had a comfortable life at the Blazing Island. Nobody disturbed him. He refined his body with flames and would go out to consume dozens of herbs every now and then. When he had nothing to do, he would study the fundamental principle of formation of sound. Most of the people in the Silver Flame Sea region had turned their attention to the north. No one cared about Blazing Island anymore. The elixirs here were consumed by Luli, and many died here. It was unlucky. What was more, many of the Wu family had died here. Who wouldn't come here? Many powerful warriors gathered at the north. Finally, the mysterious warriors were found, and many of them were killed. That being said, all the mysterious warriors knew a mysterious escaping skill that could increase their speed for a short period of time. It was difficult to chase them down. The mysterious warriors all fled to the north. Naturally, the Silver Flame Sea region mobilized more powerful warriors to hunt them down. That being said, the mysterious warriors were skilled in escaping skills. The major clans and many old warriors went after them. After half a year, they only managed to kill over 100. The remaining hundreds fled to the Flying Fire Continent. After the mysterious warriors fled to the Flying Fire Continent, the Silver Flame Sea region didn't go after them. Powerful warriors of the Godly Wind Continent didn't dare to enter the Silver Flame Sea region. Similarly, powerful warriors of the Silver Flame Sea region didn't dare to go to the Flying Fire Continent. For those of the Silver Flame Sea region, this was the countryside, and the Flying Fire Continent was the big city. If they dared to go to the big cities, they would be chased out or even killed. Back in the days, Sunlight Emperor once went to the Flying Fire Continent. Half a year later, he was forced to leave. After he came back, he went into closed-door cultivation for 100 years. Even though it was not confirmed that he was injured, the fact that he didn't show up for 100 years was proof enough. The mysterious warriors retreated to the Flying Fire Continent. The matter had come to an end. The families of the Silver Flame Sea region worked together and drove the mysterious warriors back to the Flying Fire Continent. For those of the Silver Flame Sea region, it was a great victory. Of course, this was only on the surface. In fact, the Wu family had suffered a great loss. The mysterious warriors only killed over 100 people, but the Wu family lost more than 100,000. Both sides had lost warriors of the Fifth Tribulation. More importantly, the Wu family was on their home ground. Almost half of the powerful warriors of the Silver Flame Sea region had come out to fight off the mysterious warriors. This was not something to be proud of. It was even shameful. What was more, Luli had killed so many people at the Blazing Island. The Wu family had suffered a great loss and lost face, but Luli was missing, and the mysterious warriors had retreated to the Flying Fire Continent. What could they do? He could only suppress his anger in his heart. The Silver Flame Sea region had quieted down. What about the Wu family, the Blazing Island, and some old warriors of the Wu family? If they went looking for trouble, they would be in trouble. The Blazing Island seemed to have been forgotten. Luli had been cultivating here all by himself for over a year. Nobody entered the island, not even close. Luli had forgotten about the disputes outside. During the year, his initial success in a mortal body had been stabilized. His understanding of the law of sound had improved, and he had learned several key points. The only thing Luli regretted was his initial success in a mortal body. He always felt he could awaken some kind of ability, but he could not learn it. He felt something was missing. Over the past year, Blood Fairy's progress had been remarkable. She had been constantly comprehending the primordial divine inscriptions and had improved tremendously. She had begun to unravel the mysteries of the ancient landscape painting and the bugle horn. Recently, Luli had been studying the formation of sound. He had reached a critical stage. He could not care about anything else. He immersed himself in the dreamland. He had lost track of time, the danger that could happen at any time, and everything else. He had been cultivating for 11 years. Apart from a short nap when he could not stand it, Luli would cultivate as soon as he woke up. Blood Fairy had been monitoring the surroundings. Once someone came, she would know. Therefore, Luli did not care about anything else. Today, Luli finally woke up. It was not because he had mastered the formation of sound, but because Blood Fairy had told him that someone was approaching the island. How long have I been cultivating? Chapter 2466. The person who came was an old devil who cultivated the fire element. He came here to try his luck, to see if there was a super divine medicine like the blessing fruit. As soon as he entered the island, Blood Fairy sensed his presence. Luli sensed that the patterns he built were triggered. That warrior had entered the area of red flames. A glint of killing intent rose in Luli's eyes. He was ready to kill this man. Whether this man was from the Wu family or not, Luli had to kill him. If the information was leaked, Luli's years of hiding would be pointless. The Wu family would organize another team to intercept him. That warrior entered the area of purple flames with a red bead in his hand. It seemed to be able to protect him from fire. Luli used the trace of Tao to sense. He could tell that this warrior was not particularly strong, only at the initial stage of the fifth tribulation. Luli thought for a moment and said to Blood Fairy, lure him to the edge of the area of white flames. Blood Fairy's tentacles reached out and a horn appeared in front of the warrior. Old Devil had been looking for the divine medicine. When he found Blood Fairy, he was overjoyed. He reached out to grab her. Blood Fairy would not let him grab her. Besides, she was a soul. Even if she wanted to, she might not be able to. Blood Fairy shrank back at once. That warrior chased after her. All herbs were intelligent. As far as he was concerned, Blood Fairy's escape was a miracle. Soon, Blood Fairy's tentacles went back to the area of white flames. The warrior came to the edge of the area of white flames as well. He was afraid and regretful, but he did not dare to enter the area of white flames. Swish, right at that moment, a ray of sword light came from the area of white flames. The ray of sword light made several turns and swept across with white flames. The warrior was still regretting that he did not capture Blood Fairy. He reacted too slowly and was enveloped by the white flames. Black smoke rose from his body. He rolled around on the ground in pain. Run! His instinct for survival helped him come back to his senses. Even though he was badly wounded, he was ready to fly away. Right at that moment, a man dashed out from the area of white flames and bumped into the warrior. A pair of strong hands even hugged the warrior tightly. The warrior was scared out of his wits. With a dark glare in his hand, he smashed at Luli's chest. Luli did not care. He rolled over with the warrior in his arms into the area of white flames. The old devil screamed a few times, and then he was quickly burned to death. White Flame was still unable to resist. Otherwise, he would have chased after her. Before he died, he slapped Luli twice. Luli grimaced in pain and twitched in pain. That man was burnt to death, but Luli was still lying on the ground, holding the burnt body. Suddenly, Luli was surprised. Just now, when the old devil attacked him, he felt countless invisible energy surging in his body, and near his chest, the invisible energy converged toward the place where he was attacked. Could it be? Luli threw the scorched body away and sat with his legs crossed to sense the energy carefully. Just now, the old devil's two palms were very powerful, but apart from the pain, he didn't suffer any serious injuries. Was it because of the energy? Where did this energy come from? After a while, Luli noticed that the energy had gone back into his body. It was hiding in every inch of his flesh and blood. If he didn't look carefully, he wouldn't be able to tell. He pondered for a moment and recalled the golden light in the lightning during the thunder tribulation. There was golden light in every bolt of lightning. The lightning burned him and then healed him quickly. Could it be that the golden light energy was hiding in his body? Could it be that the energy could not only heal his body, but also enhance his defense? Luli had a feeling that there should be something different about the minor success of the immortal body, but he couldn't tell. Now that he was attacked, he suddenly realized that he could enhance his defense. Let's try it. Luli swung his fist and smashed at his leg. At the same time, he activated the Mark of Tao. As he punched, the energy around his leg automatically converged and appeared in the area where he was attacked. Boom! Luli felt a pain in his leg, but he was not injured. Of course, Luli didn't use too much strength. Luli was delighted. When the energy converged, the defense around his leg was greatly enhanced. Buzzing, Luli took out a relic weapon and cut at his leg. This time it was the same. The only difference was that his leg was cut. What made Luli overjoyed was that his body was recovering at an incredible speed. If it were not for the pain, he wouldn't even be able to tell that he was hurt. The minor success of the immortal body is powerful. Luli was grinning from ear to ear. At the same time, his eyes were filled with anticipation. His supreme immortal body was still at the second level. How powerful would he be when he reached the third level? What if he achieved the major success of the supreme immortal body? Would he be invulnerable and unkillable? No. Luli thought of Emperor Z. Emperor Z was strong, and he was invincible at the third level of the immortal body realm. Still, he was beheaded. The major success of the supreme immortal body didn't mean that he was invincible. That being said, his defense and physical body must be strong. Luli closed his eyes and searched for a bit more. Then he put away the interspatial ring and walked out. He didn't know the identity of this Asmodean. What if he was from the Wu family? Therefore, he had better leave as soon as possible. It had been a long time. His body had stabilized. It was time for him to go to the flying fire continent. Luli rushed out. He didn't fly across the void. Instead, he changed his appearance and flew to a nearby island in a low profile. After flying for 10 to 10 hours, he entered the island and left via the teleportation formation. Along the way, Luli changed his appearance and teleported for more than 100 times. Finally, he stopped in a big city. Previously, the crippled Zen master said that there were no teleportation formations here. Now, many cities had teleportation formations, but they were all new. They must have been built in recent years. Maybe when the crippled Zen master made a mess at the Silver Flame Sea, there were no teleportation formations here. However, the speed of teleportation was too slow. Many islands were moving slowly. Therefore, sometimes teleportation would take a detour. The teleportation fees were high, much higher than at the Wind Continent. Luli collected some information in the city. The Silver Flame Sea had been quieter in recent years. The only major event was the Go family in the north. There was a talented girl who had reached the fifth tribulation before the age of 100, which caused quite a stir. Luli didn't care about that. What he was thinking was how to get to the flying fire continent quickly and safely. After he gathered all the information, he decided to take the Scorching Islands battleship to the flying fire continent. The mysterious man was defeated. The Scorching Islands battleship was operating normally again. Nothing had happened in the past few years. Luli went to a nearby city and found a branch of the Scorching Island. He handed over the divine stones and stayed there quietly, waiting for the battleship to arrive. Last time, Luli spent so many divine stones, but the Scorching Island didn't give him any. Later, when he was chased by the Wu family, he ran away. This time, Luli didn't ask for the divine stones from the Scorching Island. He boarded the battleship with a new identity. Several forces of the Silver Flame Sea had worked together to fight against the mysterious man. What if his identity was exposed and the Scorching Island sold him to the Wu family? 23 days later, Luli boarded the battleship. Once he stepped onto the battleship, he silently prayed that everything would be smooth sailing this time and that nothing bad would happen. Chapter 2467. Luli lived in a cabin on the second floor of the battleship. He went into the cabin as soon as he came up and never came out again. He used the trace of Tao to check and made sure that nobody was following him. Then he went into closed-door cultivation. He would not come out until he reached the flying fire continent. This time, the battleship had a safe journey. Nobody dared to attack the Scorching Islands battleship on the way. Over the years, the powerful warriors of the Scorching Island had been suppressing their anger. If there were any old demons that dared to attack the Scorching Island, they would be torn into pieces. There were more powerful warriors on the battleship. Over the years, there would be some lords on the battleship every now and then. Those lords were not here to protect the battleship, but to wait for their prey. The Scorching Island had been waiting for a chance to establish dominance, a chance to regain glory. Over the years, the Scorching Island could not wait for someone to make trouble for the Scorching Island so that they could go on a killing spree and restore the glory of the Scorching Island. At the moment, there was a lord on the battleship Luli was on, but the average people did not know about him. Not even the warriors of the Scorching Island knew about him. Only the dozens of warriors of the Fifth Tribulation did. Unfortunately, it was a safe trip. Nothing happened along the way. In recent years, nobody dared to make trouble for the major forces. Those old demons were not stupid. They would not run into trouble. The battleship moved forward quickly. Luli continued to cultivate the law of sound. He had been studying this law for 11 years without success. It was not hard to imagine how abstruse this law was. Luli's power of understanding was not the best, but it was not bad. Otherwise, he wouldn't have such abilities at such a young age. Luli was not in a hurry. If the law could be learned in a short time, then it would not be impressive. The more powerful a law was, the more complicated and difficult it would be. Luli was looking forward to how powerful the law would be when he mastered it. The battleship moved forward quickly. Whenever there was an eruption of the Silver Flame volcano, the battleship would stop and warriors of the Scorching Island would go out. Some of the people on the battleship would go out as well. After retrieving the treasures, the battleship would move on. Soon, 5 months had passed. The battleship was in the northern part of the Silver Flame Sea. In a few days, it would arrive at the largest city in the north, the Go King City. Some people on the battleship were going to the Go King City, and some were going to have a tour. The battleship would stay in King Go Wong City for 10 days, and the battleship needed to replenish its energy and repair itself. 3 days later, the warship arrived outside a large city. The city was built on a cliff and floated in mid-air like a floating island. Many in the battleship had left. Only those in cultivation stayed, including Luli. Luli was not interested in such a big city. He was afraid that something might go wrong if he went in. He would rather stay on the battleship. Dozens of experts from Heavenly Scorching Island entered, leaving behind a Fifth Tribulation expert to hold the fort. 100 soldiers were left behind, while the rest entered the city. The people of Heavenly Flame Island were also very bored, so every time they arrived at a big city, they would stay for a few days. The people of Heavenly Flame Island would go down to have fun and relax. The battleship was very safe outside the city. King Go City was the main city of the Go clan. Anyone who caused trouble in the city would die. Even if they were outside the city, they wouldn't dare to cause a ruckus. Furthermore, most people wouldn't have the guts to attack the Sky Flame Island's warships. That being said, something happened. On the second day, 2 warriors flew out of the city. As soon as they left the city, they began to fight. Their attacks accidentally landed on the battleship, leaving a crack on the ship. Courting death, one of the Fifth Tribulation experts on the warship immediately flew into a rage. He crushed the Jade Talisman and flew out of the warship, charging towards the 2 old devils. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Powerful warriors of Heavenly Flame Island flew out from the city. The Hidden Lord was the fastest. When he saw that the battleship was cracked, he was not angry. Instead, he was delighted. He let out a long howl and swatted at one of them. That person was effortlessly swatted down and was smacked to death. The other warrior came back to his senses. Seeing so many warriors of Heavenly Flame Island coming, he bowed and said, "My lords, don't kill me. I'm not the one who attacked your battleship. It is him." Boom! What answered him was a huge hand. The warriors of Heavenly Flame Island didn't have the chance to establish their dominance. Now that they finally had the chance, and they were outside the King Go Wong City, how could they miss such a good chance? The powerful lord snorted and said, "I don't care who you are. Anyone who dares to attack the battleship of Heavenly Flame Island will be killed." Lu Li and the others flew out. The battleship was destroyed, so they all flew out as soon as possible. Looking at the hole on the battleship, Lu Li put on a bitter expression. Every time he took a ride on a battleship, it was destroyed. Was he a jinx? Follow me into the city. A leader flew over and said to Lu Li and the others, the battleship needs to be repaired. It will take at least a month. Don't worry. There will be people who will take care of your food and lodging. Lu Li didn't care about food and lodging. What he was worried about was that he might be recognized, or this was a trap all along. Were they trying to lure him into the city on purpose? I don't think so. Lu Li shook his head. If he'd been recognized, he wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. A lord of the Wu family could just take him down or kill him instantly. Lu Li followed the group into the city. The city was bustling with activity. There were many people of different races and many scantily dressed ladies swaying their bodies. Lu Li and the others were arranged to stay in a tavern. This tavern was not a branch of Heavenly Flame Island, but a luxurious one in the city. As soon as Lu Li checked into the tavern, he activated the inhibition formation and asked Blood Fairy to lay down some runes. If anyone approached him, he would immediately fly away through the void. During the month, Lu Li lived in the tavern in fear. Fortunately, nothing unexpected happened. After a month, Lu Li was told that he could board the battleship now. The battleship was repaired. When Lu Li boarded the battleship, he had been using the trace of Great Path to check. Nothing out of the ordinary happened. The only thing that surprised Lu Li was, this time, there were 5 mysterious, powerful warriors. They were all wearing advanced masks to hide their identities. One of the girls looked like an old lady. Through the trace of Great Path, Lu Li could tell that she was a young girl, a very young one. The 5 must be powerful and of high status. Lu Li noticed that a patriarch of Heavenly Flame Island had arranged cabins for them in person, quite luxurious ones. Are they from the Wu family? Lu Li wondered. But on second thought, if they were here to kill him, they would not have brought along such a young lady. Why would a young lady from a major family disguise herself as an old lady? What was their secret? Lu Li could not figure it out. He had to stay alert. He asked Blood Fairy to lay down more runes. If something went wrong, he would have to fly away. Chapter 2468. To Lu Li's surprise, that young lady and several powerful warriors never came out after they went into the cabin. They didn't do anything either. It had been a month and nothing had happened. Since they didn't do anything, they must not be from the Wu family. The battleship was far away and there were many opportunities. If they were from the Wu family, they would have done something by now. The Scorching Island would be on the Wu family side. They would turn a blind eye even if they didn't help. Lu Li didn't mind. He asked Blood Fairy to monitor the surroundings while he consumed the elixirs and continued to study the fundamental principle of divine sounds. There were many elixirs left. He had acquired many interspatial rings, which contained many elixirs. The battleship sailed on steadily. The journey was boring. Apart from the occasional eruption of the Silver Flame volcano, they could go down to check and have some fun. For the rest of the time, they would either sit or cultivate. For Lu Li, such peaceful times were hard to come by. Ever since he came to the third heaven, he had been hunted down. He never had the time to cultivate in peace. He had been cultivating at the Blazing Island for 11 years because it had been a long time since he had enjoyed a peaceful time. The battleship pressed on. After 8 months, they finally arrived at the Flying Fire Continent. When a continent and a majestic city appeared in the distance, countless merchants on the warships cheered and jumped for joy. Many merchants stood on the deck, their faces full of joy. To them, arriving at the Flying Fire Continent meant that they would be able to earn an astronomical amount of divine stones. It also meant that they had safely completed half of their journey. Fire City, that was the name of the city. It was at the southernmost part of the Flying Fire Continent and also the largest city in the south. Entering this city meant entering the Flying Fire Continent, and the disputes of the Silver Flame Sea Domain could be ignored. Even if one offended Emperor Yang, one would be safe as long as one entered the Fire City. Because Fire City was a city occupied by an ancient aristocrat clan. Behind this ancient aristocrat clan, there was a heavenly emperor that was extremely powerful. At this moment, Lu Li opened his eyes. He had already collected information about the Fire City. He knew that once he entered the city, he would be completely safe. Even if the Wu clan knew he was in the city, no one would dare to touch him. Flying fire continent. Luli walked out of the cabin and stood on the deck. Looking at the city that was getting closer and closer, he suddenly felt like crying. The image of a woman appeared in his mind. That woman was as beautiful as a fairy. Her eyes were filled with love, and her expression was filled with determination and decisiveness. I'm worried about you. Let's go home. I made your favorite preserved venison. Little brother, take your saber and kill our way out of the tribe. Kill anyone who dares to stop us. Since when have they ever treated us as their own people? Furthermore, when have they ever treated us as humans? If it wasn't for sixth great uncle, would we still be alive now? You can do anything for your brother. You can give up everything for your loved ones. You have to be cold-blooded and merciless when dealing with your enemies. You have to kill them all the moment you strike. The path of martial arts is a path of slaughter. If you want to become a strong cultivator, become a city lord, a region lord, or even a Run Huang, you have to become a powerful cultivator. You have to step on countless corpses to rise to the top. A general's success is built on the bones of tens of thousands. This has always been the case. Do you understand? A man should kill, and kill mercilessly. An everlasting cause is to kill. Once upon a time, there were heroic men who kept their promises. Killing with a glare was lighter than a feather. There were heroes and tyrants who killed in a disorderly manner. Luli thought back to everything Lu Ling said in the past. He thought back to the time he spent with Lu Ling and the hardships she went through since she was a kid. His eyes became more and more misty. Gazing at the land in the distance, he seemed to see a beautiful lady standing there quietly, waiting for him to go over. Sister, I am here. Finally, I have arrived at the Flying Fire Land. I will see you soon, Luli murmured. He could not remember how long he had been away from Lu Ling. Maybe it was longer than the time he spent with her. That being said, Luli could never forget Lu Ling even after 1,000 or 10,000 years. To him, she was the closest person to him, the most important person in his life. Luli exclaimed as he thought back to the past years. He went from the heaven reverse universe to the 9 universes, then to the divinity, to the second heaven, and finally to the third heaven. Finally, he knew where Lu Ling was. How arduous the journey had been. Anyone else would have given up. Luli never thought that he could really arrive at the Flying Fire Land. His dream had become a reality. However, he felt he was in a trance, as if he was dreaming. The battleship flew across the sky and soon arrived at the city. The battleship stopped at the plaza to the south of the city. The leader on the battleship said, "Guys, this is the end of the journey. You can enter the city now. If you need to go to the Scorching Island from the Flame City, you can go to our branch at the Flame City. Thank you." One team after another flew down. Luli noticed that the young lady disguised as an old lady flew down with 4/5 tribulation heaven gods toward the city gate. I don't think they are here for me. Luli could put his mind at ease. He did not linger. He cupped his fist to the leader and landed at the city gate. There were guards here. Luli had to show his flying fire token. If he did not have it, he would have to pay 1 billion divine stones. This was actually a tax in disguise. Luli didn't mind. 1 billion divine stones was nothing for him. He was as rich as a nation. The interspatial rings of those old warriors and patriarchs of the Wu family were rich. They could easily take out 200 billion divine stones. Luli found a tavern to stay in after he entered the Flame City. The first thing he did was to find the waiter. He was told to buy a map of the Flying Fire Land. He only knew that the Dragon Rebel Valley was in the center of the continent, but not the specific location. Also, the Flying Fire Land was too large. It would take years to teleport there. Luli had to find out more about the situation before he took action. He bought the most expensive map with detailed information about the forces of the Flying Fire Land. Luli spent an entire afternoon reading the map and chatted with the waiter for several hours. He had some understanding of the superficial forces of the Flying Fire Land. 8 races, 9 surnames, 10 kings. This was a brief introduction of the forces of the Flying Fire Land. There were 8 ancient races, 9 powerful surnames, and 10 kings. There were 27 super forces. On the surface, the top forces of the Flying Fire Continent were the 27. Luli didn't know if there were other hidden forces or not. The Dragon Rebel Valley was one of the 27 forces. Of the 8 ancient races, it ranked second. What was more, there were more Emperor Realm warriors at the Flying Fire Land. There were 13 of them and dozens of Emperor Realm warriors. They had been at the peak of the Sixth Tribulation for many years and were the most powerful warriors below the Emperor Realm. The Flying Fire Land is a mess, Luli asked the waiter. His mind was weighed down. 8 races, 9 surnames, and 10 kings were not harmonious. 2 forces would often go to war. Sometimes, 4 or 5 forces would fight against each other. At the moment, there were 4 forces that were fighting. They were not only fighting among themselves. They had also called on their affiliated forces to fight against each other. During this period of time, the Flying Fire Continent could be said to be in a state of chaos. The Dragon Rebel Valley was involved as well. Chapter 2469. 4 super forces, 4 behemoths, have been rooted in this land for millions of years. Their influence and strength were all horrifying. The war between the 4 forces involved tens of thousands of families and forces. Hundreds of billions of warriors could be mobilized. Every time a war broke out, countless people would die. The war had been going on for 100 years. The 4 forces were actually fighting for an entrance to a treasured land. It just so happened that the entrance was at the border of the 4 forces' territories. Between the major forces, there was no hatred for no reason, and there was no love for no reason either. Between the forces, there were no emotions, no justice or evil, no right or wrong. The only thing that mattered was interests. Only the huge interests could incite the super families to fight endlessly. The 4 forces had been fighting for 100 years. It was true that the war was not going on all the time. Usually, there would be a pause. But how many people had died during this time? How many resources and wealth had been consumed? It was impossible to estimate. It wasn't just hatred that kept the major forces at war. It was more about profit. The 4 forces all wanted to take the treasured land for themselves, but the other 3 forces would not be happy about it. 10 years ago, the 4 forces had an agreement that each force would send someone in to fight for the treasure together. However, because the hatred was too deep, after each faction sent some people in, a chaotic battle broke out. Ultimately, the people from the 3 factions were annihilated. When the remaining factions' people came out, they were all killed by the other 3 factions' combined forces. Therefore, the scuffle broke out again, and it had been going on until now. But recently, there were rumors that 2 forces had formed an alliance. The scuffle between the 4 forces might turn into a war between 2 alliances. Whether it was the scuffle between the 4 forces or the war between the 2 alliances, the war would not stop anytime soon. The 4 forces were all behemoths. Some of them had Emperor Realm warriors, and some had ways to suppress Emperor Realm warriors. Therefore, it was difficult for them to destroy each other. As long as they could not destroy each other's families or inflict serious damage on them, then the war would not end anytime soon. Luli was having a headache. For one thing, he was worried about Lu Ling. For another, he didn't know how to get to the Dragon Rebel Valley. Since the central region was at war, outsiders could not use their teleportation formations. If he wanted to go to the Dragon Rebel Valley, he had to either go through the battlefield or take a detour. Taking a detour wasn't just a small detour. It would take him 2 or 3 years to teleport, and the cost would be sky high. Luli stared at the map for a long time. After a while, Luli decided to go to the black market in the city. He wanted to see if there were any other ways to go in the black market. After walking out of the inn, he walked around a few times and entered a castle. The castle wasn't big, and there was a manager, 2 guards, and a portal. "Sir, do you have a token of our Flying Smoke Palace?" The steward came over with a smile. Luli only knew that this was a black market castle, but he didn't know it was called the Palace of Flying Smoke. He shook his head, indicating that he didn't know. The steward said with a smile, "Sir, is this your first time coming to our Flying Smoke Palace? Our Flying Smoke Palace is one of the 27 major powers of the Flying Fire Continent, and we have branches in all the major cities. We, the Flying Smoke Palace, have a slogan. As long as you have enough Godstones, we can help you do anything you want. Oh, Lee's eyes glowed. He teased, if I asked you to assassinate an emperor, would you be able to do it? Ha, the steward said with a smile. Don't ask such boring questions. Sir, do you need a token? With a token, you can enter any branch of the Flying Smoke Palace at will. Without a token, you will have to pay 100 million Godstones for each entry. 100 million Godstones for each entry? Lee rolled his eyes. The Flying Smoke Palace was so good at making Godstones. Lee asked, what about the token? That's easy, the steward said with a smile. You can either pay 10 billion Godstones at once, or you can provide proof of 1 trillion Godstones or treasures of equal value. Then you can do it for free. I think I will pay 100 million Godstones. Lee thought about it and said, 1 trillion Godstones was not enough for him, but treasures were more than enough. That being said, he could not show off so many of his belongings easily. He handed over the 100 million Godstones and stepped into the teleportation formation. After a flash of white light, Lee came to a huge hall. This hall should be underground. It was completely enclosed with many shops and a free trade zone. Many people were selling treasures on the ground. Fifth Tribulation warriors could be seen everywhere. It was a lively place with people coming and going. Lee saw many treasures as well as materials that he had never seen before. Well, let me buy some body-strengthening pellets. Lee walked to a shop that sold only miraculous pellets. Lee asked around and realized that the prices were reasonable. He counted the Godstones in his interspatial ring. He bought more than 10,000 of them, which was worth tens of billions of Godstones. Lee didn't want to buy any treasures. He wandered around and eventually entered the main hall of the Palace of Flying Smoke. I want to talk about a big deal. Lee found a steward with the surname of Liu. He showed Lee to a side chamber. Lee went straight to the point. I want to go to the Dragon Rebel Valley. Can you open a space gate and send me there? No. Chief Steward Liu shook his head and said, it is too far away from the Dragon Rebel Valley. We cannot go there in one go. There is a chaotic fight in the central region. Danger can arise anywhere. Therefore, we cannot open the space gate there for now. If you must, we will have to send you to the Autumn Rain territory. Lee took out a map of the Flying Fire Continent to check. He realized that the Autumn Rain territory was more than 100 miles away from the Dragon Rebel Valley. To the north would be the chaotic area. In other words, even if he could open the space gate to the Autumn Rain territory, he would still have to go through the chaotic area. But if he could open the space gate, he could save a lot of time. Lee thought about it and asked Chief Steward Liu, is there any other way? If you can send me to the Dragon Rebel Valley safely, I don't have to worry about Godstones. There is another way, Chief Steward Liu said. We have battleships in the Palace of Flying Smoke. Usually, our battleships are safe, but they're slow. It will take us at least 10 years to get to the Dragon Rebel Valley from here. Of course, we cannot guarantee absolute safety. It is not only the 4 forces that are fighting there. There are many old warriors trying to fish in troubled waters. Can we do this? Lee thought about it and said, you can open the space gate and send me to the Autumn Rain territory. Then, I will take your battleship to the Dragon Rebel Valley. Sure. Chief Steward Liu nodded and said, opening the space gate is expensive. It will cost at least 300 billion Godstones. Are you sure you can afford that many? No problem. Lee nodded. He didn't have that many Godstones, but there were many treasures and materials in the interspatial rings of those old warriors. He could sell them for enough. Okay, please wait a moment, honorable guest. Chief Steward Liu got up and left. He said, I will go and make the arrangements. We will talk about the price when I am sure it is okay. Chapter 2470. Soon, Chief Steward Liu made the arrangements. Opening the space gate would cost 300 billion divine stones. Taking a battleship over there would not cost much, only 20 billion. Lee took out some treasures. Chief Steward Liu invited an appraiser to give him a price. Luli didn't know much about it, but he could tell that the Palace of Smoke had rules. The price should be reasonable. Luli paid a deposit of 100 billion divine stones, and the Palace of Smoke made an appointment to come back in a month. At the same time, the Palace of Smoke gave Luli a token. How could the Palace of Smoke miss out on such a rich customer? A token given to Luli as a distinguished guest. Luli walked out. He was about to go out when he saw some familiar faces. It was the young lady and the 4 warriors of the 5th tribulation that boarded the ship at the Go Emperor City. They were in disguise. The young lady was disguised as an old lady. Luli didn't expect that they would go to the Palace of Smoke as well. They must be from a big family of the Go Emperor City. Were they here to buy treasures? Luli took a look and left. He went back to the tavern to cultivate. Somehow, he felt safe here. The warriors of the Silver Flame Sea region wouldn't come after him. Even if they did, they wouldn't dare to make a move. Finally, he could sleep in peace. After cultivating for more than 20 days, Luli had a good sleep. When he woke up, he wandered around the city. It was rare for him to be so free. In addition, he also went to gather information, especially about the Dragon Rebel Valley. The month was up. As promised, Luli went to the Palace of Smoke. He entered the hall where, to his surprise, he ran into the 5 warriors that came from the Go Emperor City. They're going to the Dragon Rebel Valley as well. It's on the way. Chief Steward Lu explained with a smile. Luli was wearing the shape-shifting mask. He showed no emotion, but he was on guard. Was it coincidence? Or were the 5 here to assassinate him? The thing was, if they were here, they could have done it on the battleship at the Scorching Island. Now that they were at the Flying Fireland, they could have killed them in someone else's territory. For example, if they did on the battleship of the Palace of Smoke, they would be killed by powerful warriors of the Palace of Smoke, even if they could kill him. It was not worth it. The best time to do it was in the Silver Flame Sea region. The 5 glanced at Luli, but didn't mind. Luli secretly activated the Trace of Tao and saw that the 5 didn't have any killing intent. If the 4 warriors of the 5th tribulation could hide, that young lady shouldn't be so shrewd. Luli could also see the contempt in the eyes of the 5th tribulation warrior. Luli appeared to be at the peak of the 3rd tribulation, which was too weak for a 5th tribulation warrior. Luli was a bit relieved. They would arrive at the Autumn Rain City when they opened the portal. That was a Lord Realm city. These people wouldn't dare to do anything rash, would they? Since they boarded the battleship from within the city, the people on the battleship did not dare to make a move. He didn't say anything else. In any case, as long as they could send him to the Autumn Rain City, he didn't want to bother about anything else. Even if they had to open the region gate and send tens of thousands of people at once, it was also the capability of the Flying Smoke Palace. Luli Jade. Lili had not said. Lu Steward Li Stones. Li Steward Luli God Lu gave. With Li Dao he. Li was. Li was star. Luli was. Li was Lu Saint. Li space. Time. Lu he. Li was. Li Tion. Are you ready? Steward Lu asked. Everyone nodded. Steward Lu glanced in that direction and saw 10 experts opening the domain gate. After a while, a black gate appeared. The 5 of them rushed in first, followed by Luli. After entering, he felt as if the world was spinning, as if he had fallen into a bottomless abyss. He did not know how long had passed. Was it a few days or a few months? Luli finally saw a light in front of him. Xiao! He rushed into the light and flew out. This time, his soul spirit was much stronger, so he didn't get dizzy and disoriented. He scanned his surroundings with his divine will and realized that he had appeared in a huge castle. The 5 had already come out and were standing in the castle. There was also an old man who seemed to be in charge. When Luli came out, the old man cupped his fists and said with a smile, I am Chun He from the Palace of Smoke in the Autumn Rain City. Welcome, honored guest. I have arranged rooms for you to rest. The warship will arrive in a month and a half, so please stay here for a while. Luli nodded and left with Chief Steward Chun. Maids took them to a small castle. The Autumn Rain City. Luli was a bit excited. The Dragon Rebel Valley was not far away, only hundreds of realms apart. Teleportation would only take a couple of months. Of course, the north was in a state of chaos. Fierce battles were happening everywhere. Teleportation was not possible. It would take longer to travel by warship. If everything went smoothly, it would take about a year. Luli stayed in the castle for 3 days. He walked out and went to Chief Steward Chun of the Palace of Smoke, mainly to ask about the Dragon Rebel race. Luli didn't ask for nothing. He paid 1 billion divine stones and got a lot of information. The Dragon Rebel clan was famous not only on the Flying Fire continent, but also in the entire Level 3 heaven. The Dragon Rebel clan was one of the 10 holy clans from ancient times. It was also one of the most powerful clans from ancient times, a super clan that had survived and never declined. The Dragon Rebel race looked no different from humans. The only difference was that they had the Dragon Rebel blood seal. Once it was awakened, their abilities would be enhanced by hundreds of times, and they would have 2 powerful skills. Different from the blood race of the Heaven Purity race, the Dragon Rebel race kept a low profile. They rarely went out. There were strict rules in the Dragon Rebel race. They were not allowed to stir up trouble for no reason or bully the weak. Therefore, the Dragon Rebel race had a good reputation at the Flying Fireland. They were a powerful race to begin with. Usually, people wouldn't mess with them. Dragon Rebel race would be treated with respect when they went out. They were treated as guests of honor by many families. The only thing that was unfortunate at the Flying Fireland was that the Dragon Rebel race never married outsiders. Men would not marry women from outside, and women would never marry outsiders. Many people who wanted to establish a relationship with the Dragon Rebel tribe or get the bloodline magic of the Dragon Rebel tribe were disappointed. The Dragon Rebel race never married outsiders. That was how they could maintain the purity of their bloodline, which was the foundation of their strength. Lu Ling, Dragon Rebel Antelope? While Lu Li and Chief Steward Chun were asking about Lu Ling, the latter shook her head and said, "I don't remember this person. Maybe he is not a direct descendant of the Dragon Rebel race, and he is not that talented. Anyways, I don't think he is among the famous young generation of the Dragon Rebel race." Buzzing, Lu Li took out Lu Ling's portrait, handed it to Chief Steward Chun, and said, "Please, Chief Steward Chun, look into this for me. I am willing to pay 10 billion divine stones if you can find any information about this person." "Okay, wait a minute. I will go and ask." Chief Steward Chun took over the portrait and left. Lu Li sat in the castle and waited. Half a day later, Chief Steward Chun finally came back. "I am sorry." Chief Steward Chun shook his head and said, "I have asked someone from the intelligence department here. They know the Dragon Rebel race well, but they have never seen this person. If this person is really from the Dragon Rebel race, then he is not that famous." "Not that famous? How come?" Chapter 2471. 1.5 months later, the battleship arrived as scheduled. The battleship was larger than the one at the Scorching Island, and there were more people on board. Due to the chaotic battle at the central region, it would be difficult to travel from the north to the south. Naturally, they cannot go on their own. It would be safer to take the battleship. The battleship of the Palace of Smoke was silver in color, as if it was made of mercury. It was magnificent like a silver beast. There were at least 10,000 people on the battleship. The battleship was divided into 2 floors. Lu Li, as an honored guest, was on the 2nd floor where he had his own cabin. Many people on the ground floor shared a cabin. The environment was poor as well. Lu Li and the 5 boarded the battleship. The 5 asked for a large cabin with several rooms. They never came out after they went in. Lu Li didn't cultivate right away. Instead, he stood on the deck for half a day, trying to see the local conditions and customs of the Flying Fire continent. The name Flying Fire continent was not a random one. Just like the Silver Flame Sea, the name had a history. There would be flames falling from the sky at the Flying Fire continent. Among the flames, there would be meteorites, which were good materials for forging artifacts. Good meteorites could be used to make sovereign weapons. Lu Li stood on the deck, trying to see if there would be any flames falling. The battleship flew on silently. After half a day, the sky to the west lit up. Following that, they felt a surge of heat. High up in the sky, 3 streaks of flames whooshed down and disappeared into the mountains to the west. Flying fire is descending. Many people on the battleship were excited. The battleship slowed down a bit. Hundreds of people on the battleship dashed out toward where the flames were falling. This is similar to the Silver Flame volcano. Luli nodded. These two places were a gift from the heavens. The Silver Flame volcano could erupt something good, and the Flying Fire continent could be a free lunch. If an ordinary martial artist obtained a piece of extraterrestrial meteoric iron and sold it, he would become a rich man in an instant. If he stayed in a small place for the rest of his life, he would not have to worry about food or clothing. If he embarked on the path of martial arts, he could buy many pellets and materials to go further. Boom, boom, boom. A moment later, there was an explosion and a scream. It was unknown whether it was the people nearby who were fighting or the people who had disembarked from the warship who were fighting over the treasures. In any case, the Flying Smoke Palace did not care. They would be responsible for the safety of the warship. Once one left the warship, they would not care even if one died near the warship. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After waiting for a while, a group of people flew back from afar. However, only 200 of the 300 or so people returned. A commander from the Flying Smoke Palace shouted, and another 40 or so people flew back. Buzz, the warship pierced through the sky once again. There were a few dozen people missing, but no one cared. The people from the Flying Smoke Palace did not even bother to investigate. They had disembarked voluntarily. Even if they died, they would have died in vain. The warship flew steadily. Along the way, there were many strange mountains and rivers, great swamps, and huge rivers. Occasionally, they could see a large lake and an endless forest. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After flying for more than a day, a few more fireballs fell from the distance and smashed into the river. Many people immediately flew out, and the battleship slowed down again. An incense is time. If you don't return, we'll be leaving. One of the commanders shouted, and a few hundred people immediately flew out from the warship. For many of them, the cost of riding the warship was exorbitant. If they could get 1 or 2 pieces of meteoric iron, it would be some compensation. If they could get some super meteoric iron, they could make a fortune. Luli had been standing on the deck without moving. For him, treasures were not important anymore. He still had 3 ancient treasures in his heaven separation bead, but he could not use them. He had enough holy weapon pieces. What was the point of fighting for the meteoric iron? Luli had no other thoughts. He just wanted to arrive at the Dragon Rebel Valley safely, complete the task given by the Asmodean, and see Lu Ling. Nothing else mattered to him. After standing for half a day, Luli felt bored. He went back to his cabin and asked Blood Fairy to set up divine patterns and inhibition formations. He was ready to cultivate. Right? Luli asked, Blood Fairy, didn't you say that you have made great progress in the study of ancient divine patterns? How's the refining of that ancient painting going? Luli had been cultivating at the Blazing Island for 11 years. Blood Fairy had been studying ancient divine patterns all the time. She was told that she had made great progress last time. Luli did not pay more attention. Anyway, Blood Fairy would tell him as soon as she was done. Soon, Blood Fairy transmitted excitedly. The ancient painting is about to be refined, and the bugle horn is about to be refined as well. Only the ring is out of my reach. Perhaps my comprehension of the primordial divine inscriptions is still insufficient. Okay, Li's eyes glowed. That horn was powerful. An ancient artifact was powerful. Even with such a strong dragon soul, Li could not stand it. What kind of powerful warriors could the horn affect when it was fully activated? Li asked no more questions. He took out the elixirs and began to consume them. He had bought over 1,000 elixirs at the Palace of Smoky and the ones he got from the interspatial rings of the old demons. Now, he had enough elixirs for 2 to 3 years. However, as he consumed more and more elixirs, he began to develop resistance. The effects of the elixirs were not as good as before. That was to be expected. No wonder Emperor Z had to go to some dangerous places to refine his body. The best elixirs were hard to come by. There were not so many of them. Time flew by, and soon, 3 months had passed. The battleship entered the lake territory. This was a battlefield. The lords and family masters here were affiliated with the Palace of Clouds, one of the 4 forces. Powerful warriors of the Palace of Smoky were on alert. A war could break out at any time. The battleship could be hit, and many of the tens of thousands of people here could be killed. This would affect the reputation of the Palace of Smoky. The battleship had a lord. The fifth tribulation was not enough. At the moment, the sixth tribulation warrior had come out of his room and sat on the deck at the top of the battlefield. He released his chi and energy, which could intimidate those who were attacking the battleship. Many people on the battleship were nervous. Before they boarded, the Palace of Smoky had said that their safety could not be guaranteed and they could only try their best. Therefore, if something were to go wrong, the Palace of Smoky would at most lose its reputation. There would be no compensation. Of course, if they died, there would be no compensation. Boom, boom, boom. After flying for several days, they heard some explosions in the wild. Two groups of warriors were fighting. There were hundreds on each side. The people on the battleship were on edge. But when they found out that there were only two fifth tribulation warriors, they were relieved. Swish, a ray of sword light cut across the sky. The shockwave came toward the battleship. A fifth tribulation warrior flew out at once and generated a white shield to protect himself. We are the battleship of the Palace of Smoky. Who dares to attack us? Courting death? The fifth tribulation warrior shouted. The attack stopped. Then, the warriors on both sides flew away in the shape of birds and beasts. The Palace of Smoky was one of the 27 forces. Clearly, the two groups were not from the major forces. They dared not to provoke them. Phew. Chapter 2472. The Palace of Smoke was a strong deterrent. For the next half a month, there were battles everywhere. But when warriors of the Palace of Smoke showed up, both sides would have second thoughts and wouldn't attack the Palace of Smoke's battleships. Indeed, it was a mess on this side. The four forces were fighting, and tens of thousands of families and forces were involved. Many other forces were fishing in troubled waters. Many old warriors had come here to fish in troubled waters. Many old warriors that were on their own needed a large amount of resources to cultivate because they didn't have any forces to support them. They didn't have a territory of their own, so they couldn't always enter dangerous places to snatch treasures, right? Therefore, this kind of chaos was their favorite. They could sneak in quietly, do something here, and loot a city there. After a few rounds, they could get a large amount of resources and divine stones. The problem was that the four forces were all poaching each other. Therefore, there was a mix of forces. A few days ago, the four forces were allies. But now they suddenly attacked and wiped out the other side. More forces were coming in from the outside. Many forces here were wiped out, leaving a large amount of land vacant. When outside forces came to attack, as long as they could gain a firm foothold, they could benefit for generations to come. In the face of great interests, many people were willing to put their lives on the line. Even though a large number of warriors were dying every year, the situation was getting more and more chaotic. Luli didn't pay attention to the chaos outside. He continued to cultivate in peace, consuming elixirs, cultivating divine energy, and studying fundamental principles and laws. There were lords and 40 to 50 warriors of the fifth tribulation on the battleship. Even if the battleship was attacked, it should be able to hold on for some time. As long as they could hold on for some time, Luli could fly away at any time. If so, what was there to be afraid of? Compared to Luli's calmness, the others on the battleship were not so optimistic. Many were standing on the deck or using psychic power to keep an eye on the situation outside. As the battleship moved on, the situation became more and more chaotic. There were large-scale battles. Today, the battleship was caught in a fight between tens of thousands of people. Luckily, the battleship flew away at once. Several warriors of the fifth tribulation of the Palace of Smoke stopped the warriors that were going after them. Boom! Boom, boom. 3 days later, a violent explosion was heard above a large lake. Following that, a group of people fled in fear. Just at this moment, a battleship flew past them. More than 10,000 people were fleeing from that direction. Behind them, more than 20,000 people were chasing after them. Stop! Formation! Raise the flag! The overlord of the flying smoke palace widened his eyes and bellowed. All the fifth tribulation experts on the warship flew out and surrounded the warship. This overlord expert flew into the air. Beside him stood a fifth tribulation expert who held a huge flag. It was the symbol of the flying smoke palace. When the tens of thousands of people saw a warship here, they felt quite surprised, thinking that it was an enemy intercepting them. Just as they were about to attack, they saw a formation and a flag. Many people came to their senses. "We're from the soaring smoke palace. Please don't come any closer. We won't attack anyone, but if you do, we won't hold back," a fifth tribulation expert shouted angrily. The nearby martial artists immediately scattered and fled to the sides. More importantly, the Lord of the sixth tribulation was too intimidating. Who dared to come closer? He would probably be killed in a single move, right? The pursuers didn't do anything. Even though there were dozens of fifth tribulation experts, they all went around to the sides and kept on chasing. Only when all the soldiers and experts had disappeared into the distant sky did everyone feel relieved. There were tens of thousands of people. If they had attacked the warship, even if the Lord and the fifth tribulation expert could kill a large number of people, many on the warship could die in the chaos. Luli was alarmed. He used the trace of the Great Tau to check, and then went back to cultivation after making sure everything was fine. Soon, the warship started again and flew toward the north. Just like that, the journey was more daunting than dangerous. Even though there were fights every couple of days, the flying smoke palace was still a powerful deterrent. That lord was also a deterrent to many people. The warship flew on for a month. It had entered the core area of the area where the fights were taking place. Along the way, people had built up absolute confidence in the flying smoke palace. Many people were relieved. The Dragon Rebel clan and other forces all knew about the Flying Smoke Palace's warships. Whenever the Flying Smoke Palace's warships passed by, they would restrain themselves. Of course, the Flying Smoke Palace's warships would take a detour as well. They would not fly toward the center of the battle like an idiot. Boom, boom, boom. One day, when a warship passed by a mountain, there was another fight going on. The Dragon Rebel clan arranged for the warship to take a detour. However, when a warship was passing by a valley, a ray of sword light suddenly rose from below. Boom! The warship was protected by divine patterns. However, the ray of sword light was so powerful that it cut the warship in half. As the force spread out, the warship was torn apart. Bang, bang, bang. The ray of sword light smashed many people away. Dozens were unlucky enough to die at once. What? Lu Li and the others were alerted at once. Blood Fairy went back into Lu Li's body, and he flew out as well. Countless people soared into the sky, their faces filled with shock. Countless divine wills swept down the canyon. How dare you? Those from the Palace of Flying Smoke were enraged. That sixth tribulation warrior glared downward. Soon, he was filled with murderous intent as he yelled, "You want to run? Courting death." Whoosh! The lords of the Palace of Flying Smoke dashed toward the west along the valley. The more than 25th tribulation warriors of the Palace of Flying Smoke followed them. The others kept an eye on the surroundings nervously. "Go down and stay here for now," a fifth tribulation warrior shouted. Nobody dared to run around. They flew down and waited for further arrangements from the Palace of Flying Smoke. The warship was destroyed. They did not know what to do. They had to wait for further arrangements from the Palace of Flying Smoke. Something is wrong. Lu Li's eyes flickered as he used psychic power to check. Just now, there were 8 powerful warriors of the fifth tribulation down there. They ran away as soon as they attacked. Lu Li sensed something fishy. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. While Lu Li was thinking, a group of people flew over from the distance. It seemed that one side was defeated and they were coming over. Oh no! Lu Li used psychic power to check. He sensed the killing intent and excitement in the eyes of the fifth tribulation warriors at the front. Lu Li sensed something was wrong. Clearly, the attack just now was not an accident. It was intentional. The 8 were trying to lure the Lord of the sixth tribulation away. The battle nearby might even be faked. Their purpose was self-evident. Some forces had their eyes on this warship. There were many trade caravans on the ship with valuable materials and treasures. Of course, it could also be the enemies of the Palace of Flying Smoke. Their purpose was to tarnish the reputation of the Palace of Flying Smoke. The 8 people, just now, were clearly luring the tiger away from the mountain in order to lure the Lord rank powerhouse away. Guys, we are from the Palace of Flying Smoke. Please stay away, or we will have to defend ourselves. Some 5th Tribulation warriors went over to negotiate. But it was different this time. Several 5th Tribulation warriors launched a surprise attack and killed the 5th Tribulation warrior of the Palace of Flying Smoke. You want to pretend to be from the Palace of Flying Smoke? Kill these bastards. Chapter 2473. Luli knew that a fight was inevitable, be it someone was after the Palace of Flying Smoke or some forces were after the Palace of Flying Smoke. From the distance came swarms of people. There must be at least tens of thousands of warriors and quite a number of 5th Tribulation warriors. Luli knew that he would lose this fight, at least not for a while. He had to wait for the 6th Tribulation warrior to come back to stabilize the situation. The thing was, since the enemies could lure him away, they must have planned this out. That Lord of the 6th Tribulation probably wouldn't come back so soon. Therefore, Luli had only 2 options left. He could either fight to the death with the Palace of Flying Smoke or sneak away. Luli chose the second option. There were too many powerful warriors here. Even though he had achieved initial success in his immortal body and increased his defensive abilities, his offensive abilities were not as good. If he wanted to fight against a 5th Tribulation expert, his combat strength was not enough. Once he was targeted by a 5th Tribulation expert, the consequences would be very bad. In addition to Luli, the more than 10,000 warriors on the battleship all made up their minds at once. Most of them split into groups and fled in 3 directions. The warriors of the Palace of Flying Smoke could hold on for a while. They still had a chance to run away. Boom! Luli was hit by a ray of light. But for his defensive abilities, it was not a big deal. He flew away with the others, keeping a low profile. He blended into the crowd and kept the same speed as the others. He didn't draw too much attention. The group he chose was good. It was not a caravan, but dozens of average warriors. All of them were 4th Tribulation warriors, and they were not eye-catching. Since the warriors of the Palace of Flying Smoke were fighting off the majority, Luli and the others had an easy time running away. Luli made the right choice. He didn't go with the caravans, so he wasn't targeted by powerful warriors. There were only about 30 warriors on his side. They were not strong, and they were not eye-catching at all. They kept a low profile. After the time for 1 incense stick to burn, the noise died down. The more than 30 warriors were at a loss. They didn't know whether they should run or find a place to hide. Luli was struggling as well. This place was not far from the Dragon Rebel Valley. But if they had to fly, it would take them more than half a year. Flying in the void or taking the Godspeed boat would be faster. Luli didn't dare to take the Godspeed boat. It was fast but too eye-catching. If he did, he would be killed at any time. Flying through the void was also dangerous. What if he appeared in the middle of a battlefield? His sudden appearance would immediately make him a target for the formidable martial artists on the battlefield, and he might be killed instantly. Wait here for the Flying Smoke Palace. Wait for them to settle things, and then continue asking them to arrange a trip to the Dragon Rebel Valley. Luli seemed to be in danger as well. This time, a force was targeting the Palace of Smoke. Their battleships were destroyed, and many people must have been killed as well. The impact was already bad. He reckoned that the Lord and the others would only think about finding the enemy and finding out the truth and wouldn't care about them. Furthermore, Luli wondered if this Lord and his men could even survive the 5th Tribulation warrior. If he killed all of them, he wouldn't be able to erase many clues, and the Flying Smoke Palace wouldn't be able to find anything. Go! The more Luli thought about it, the more frightened he felt. He had better get away from this troublesome place first. If the force behind the scenes wanted to silence them, they wouldn't be able to escape. Luli gave a simple explanation. The more than 30 warriors didn't dare to stay any longer. They flew to the north with Luli. On the way, Luli analyzed for a while and thought of another possibility. Could it be one of the 4 great forces? Did they want to shift the blame to another force? Drag the Palace of Smoke into the mess and fight a force together? If that was the case, then everyone would be in danger. If it was the four forces, then none of them would be able to escape. All of them would be hunted down. The more one worried about something, the more likely it was to happen. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Luli heard some noises coming from the front. Then more than 100 warriors came. The leader was a warrior of the fifth tribulation. Charge! Luli released his dragon wings without hesitation and shouted at the same time, scatter and run. The more than 30 warriors ran to all sides like frightened rabbits. Luli didn't fly at the top of his speed. He kept a low profile and flew to the west, staying close to the ground. As the more than 30 warriors ran, the others scattered as well. One warrior at the peak of the fourth tribulation was high profile. He flew to the sky directly and was targeted by the warrior of the fifth tribulation. But the warrior of the fourth tribulation did have some tricks up his sleeve. He sped up and fled to the north. Well done! Luli secretly gave the four warriors of the fourth tribulation a thumbs up. He thought he would have to go across the void if things went south. Now that the warrior of the fifth tribulation was distracted, Luli was not worried anymore. He sped up and reached the speed of a warrior of the fifth tribulation. His physical body was as strong as a warrior of the fifth tribulation. Naturally, he was faster as well. He flew across the sky and got rid of the pursuers. Whoosh, Luli flew fast, and at the same time, he used the trace of Tao. He could sense any movement from any direction. As soon as he sensed someone, he would run away. Though he felt he was taking a detour, it was safer. Luli was ready to fly across the void at any time. He could not take the risk. Once the warrior of the fifth tribulation locked onto him, he might be killed. Whoosh, after flying for an hour, it was inevitable that Luli was discovered. Two warriors came from the front. One of them was familiar to Luli. He must be a warrior of the fifth tribulation from the Palace of Smoke. He was covered in blood, and the other warrior of the fifth tribulation was chasing after him. The two warriors locked onto Luli with psychic power. The warrior of the Palace of Smoke paid no attention to Luli and kept on running. The fifth tribulation warrior who was chasing Luli swung his saber. Then a ray of sword light came at Luli. Luli flew down at once. At the same time, he released the skill of dragon and transferred some invisible energy to his back to take the blow. Boom! He was smashed down. A huge ravine appeared on the mountain, and he was smashed into the ground for hundreds of miles. His chi and energy were disguised, but there was no wound on his back. The warrior of the fifth tribulation thought he could kill Luli with one move. How come Luli was unharmed? The warrior of the fifth tribulation was hesitant because he had been chasing after the warrior of the Palace of Smoke. If the warrior of the fifth tribulation stopped attacking Luli, the warrior of the Palace of Smoke would run away. After the time for one breath, the warrior of the Palace of Smoke gave up on Luli and went after the warrior of the Palace of Smoke. The warrior of the fifth tribulation was so badly wounded that it was possible that the warrior of the fifth tribulation could kill him. On the other hand, the warrior of the fifth tribulation could not hurt Luli. The warrior of the fifth tribulation might not be able to kill Luli even if he stayed. Whoosh! But before he left, the warrior of the fifth tribulation took out a signal detonator. He threw it into the sky. The detonator exploded in midair, lighting up half of the sky red. *T. Chapter 2474. Should he fly across the void at once, or think of a way to escape first? Luli was hesitating. He didn't have puppets like the Ghost King and the Wind Warcraft to protect him. If he were surrounded by warriors of the fifth tribulation, the consequences would be unimaginable. I will run and fly across the void when things go south. Luli was afraid to take the risk. There were too many uncertainties when it came to flying across the void. If he were to fly to the center of the battlefield, he would die for sure. Buzzing, he made a very risky move. He took out the godly speedboat and entered it in a flash. Then, he flew towards the north. If he were to fly on his own, he would be surrounded soon. If so, he might as well take the speedboat and fly across the void when things went south. He exerted the mark of great path and expanded his psychic power to the extreme to observe the surroundings. Just as he had expected, countless people were coming toward him from all directions. However, the speed of the god speedboat was very fast. Before the people in the vicinity could form an encirclement, the god speedboat had already broken through the sky and crossed hundreds of thousands of miles in an instant. Many warriors were looking at the speedboat with psychic power. They were stunned to see how fast the speedboat was. Then, many people shouted. Clearly, some of the warriors knew the value of the speedboat. A speedboat was worth a fortune. Whoosh! After Luli used the mark of great path, his senses were extraordinary. If there was any fluctuation in the space up ahead, he wouldn't care who it was. He would just fly the speedboat to another direction. The speedboat was so fast that sometimes it was inevitable that the speedboat would fly past some people. Fortunately, the speedboat was so fast that many people had just noticed it. Before they could react, the speedboat had already disappeared into the horizon. Their luck ran out after the time for one incense stick to burn. 2 warriors of the 5th tribulation were flying over. One of them had already released a powerful skill. With a wave of his hand, the sky was filled with starlight. The starlight formed a huge net and smashed toward the speedboat. Buzzing, Luli could not avoid it. He put away the speedboat at once. This warrior was strong. The speedboat would not be able to stand it. Luli had to fight back. Boom, 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 Luli was hit by the starlight. His defense was so strong that the starlight didn't affect him at all. Seeing that the 2 were only warriors of the 5th tribulation, Luli thought about it and flew over. He wanted to test the abilities of his divine body. Most importantly, he couldn't fly now, so he could only fight to the death. Seeing that Luli had taken the initiative to fly over, the 2 sneered. Luli was only at the peak of the 3rd tribulation, and he wanted to challenge a warrior of the 5th tribulation. Wasn't that courting death? A golden longsword appeared in the hands of one of them, while the other took out a pagoda. The pagoda was glistening with divine light. It was clearly a precious treasure. Luli was not fast. His speed was only comparable to the middle stage of the 4th tribulation. He secretly activated the dragon weaving technique. When he was 10,000 feet away from the 2 of them, dragon wings appeared on his back, and his speed soared. He was no slower than an early-stage 5th tribulation cultivator. The 2 of them were taken aback. At this moment, Luli released his energy that was as profound as that of an ancient beast. At that moment, the 2 of them felt suffocated and their hearts trembled. Out of instinct, they thought that Luli was a powerful warrior that was hiding his realm. The distance of 10,000 feet was too short. In an instant, Luli had reached the warrior with the pagoda. He took out the relic iron and smashed at the warrior. Buzzing, that man was not a weakling either. He reacted quickly. He mobilized the pagoda, and it smashed at Luli. Luli's hand slipped, and the relic iron was smashed on the warrior's shoulder. That warrior's shoulder was crushed. Almost at the same time, his pagoda landed on Luli's chest. Boom! Both Luli and the warrior were knocked away. The difference was that the warrior of the 5th tribulation was injured on the shoulder, while Luli's chest armor was cracked, and there were some bloodstains. Luli's skin was injured, but he didn't sustain serious injuries. The 2 warriors of the 5th tribulation were stunned. They were surprised for 2 reasons. First, Luli was not as powerful as they had imagined. Second, Luli had too many treasures, including fragments of relic weapons. Is he a disciple of a big family? The 2 warriors were curious. But given the current situation, they couldn't care less. The powerful swordsman dashed to the back of Luli in an instant. He stabbed at Luli with his sword, leaving a trail of afterimages behind. Luli swung the relic iron and smashed at that warrior with a backhand. Luli had a deep understanding of his own defense. Average attacks from warriors of the 5th tribulation could not kill him. Luli wanted to end the fight as soon as possible by risking his life. Otherwise, more powerful warriors would be attracted to him. However, that warrior had seen it coming. He slid his sword across Luli's back and left a bloody wound. Then, he flew away like a ghost. He is so fast, Luli complained to himself. He moved around like a dragon and charged at the other warrior. That warrior's pagoda enlarged and smashed at Luli's chest in a blur. Boom! Luli was smashed away. Before he could come back to himself, the other warrior with the sword had come to his back like a ghost. After several flashes of sword light, Luli's back was wounded again. Boom! The other pagoda smashed at Luli again. Luli was smashed away. The two warriors of the fifth tribulation were experienced. They could tell that Luli's defense was strong. Therefore, they planned to wear Luli down slowly, not giving him a chance to get close. They stuck to Luli like two pieces of candy. Luli could not get away or fight back, let alone fly away. This is not going to work. As time went on, Luli was having a headache. The period of weakness of the dragon skill was coming to an end. By then, his defense would be weakened, and he would die in the hands of the two warriors of the fifth tribulation. As time went on, more powerful warriors would come. By then, he wouldn't be able to run away even if he wanted to. He felt a little regretful. If he had known this would happen, he would have flown into the void and escaped immediately. Bang, bang, bang. Luli was getting more and more wounded. He made up his mind to let out the daughter of the Holy King. He had no other way out. He had to sacrifice the daughter of the Holy King for a moment and then fly away. Whoosh! Right at that moment, he heard some noises coming from the distance. Luli thought it was more powerful warriors coming. He used psychic power to check and was surprised to see 5 people, 5 familiar faces. They were the 5 who opened the portal at the Palace of Smoke at the Flame City with him. One of them was a young lady disguised as an old lady. The other 4 were warriors of the fifth tribulation. It is him. The 5 clearly noticed him as well. The young lady disguised as an old lady frowned. All of a sudden, she said, "Help him." Whoosh! Clearly, the young lady was a key figure. As soon as she gave the order, 2 of the 4 warriors rushed down. The 2 warriors were taken aback. The 2 warriors were at the middle stage of the fifth tribulation, not someone they could fight. Whoosh! The 2 ran away in fear. The other warriors didn't go after them. They just looked at Luli, and one of them said, "Do you want to come with us?" "Okay. Thank you, my lord." Luli hesitated for a moment. Those warriors were powerful. More importantly, they came from the Flame City with him. At first, they boarded the battleship from the Go Emperor City. It was fate that brought them together. Previously, Luli had suspected that they were here to assassinate him. Now, it seemed that he was wrong. Given their abilities, they would have done a long time ago if they wanted to kill him. Just like just now, any one of these people would have been able to kill him without a burial ground. "Let's go." The young lady disguised as an old lady waved her hand. Luli stopped using the dragon skill, but kept his wings open. He took some healing pellets and flew to the north with the warriors. Chapter 2475. Luli flew with the 5. They would run into some enemies every now and then, but he didn't have to do anything. The 4 warriors with the young lady could kill or defeat the enemies easily. 2 of the 4 were at the middle stage of the fifth tribulation, 1 at the initial stage, and 1 seemed to be at the peak of the fifth tribulation. The 4 hid their chi and energy, but Luli could tell when they were fighting. Luli was curious about the identity of the young lady. How could a normal young lady have a warrior at the peak of the fifth tribulation as an escort? Was she a young lady from a super family at the Go Emperor City? Luli didn't know much about the Go Emperor City, and he didn't know which family she was from. What surprised Luli the most was why a big family at the Go Emperor City wanted to go to the Dragon Rebel Valley. It was one thing to go to the Dragon Rebel Valley, but why did they send a young mistress there? Why did they have to disguise her as an old lady? Luli couldn't figure it out, and he wouldn't ask. They flew fast. Whenever there was someone in their way, the 4 warriors of the fifth tribulation would deal with it. Of course, nobody dared to court death when they ran into those low-level warriors. They flew for more than 2 hours. They didn't run into anyone, which meant that they were out of danger for now. For the first time, the young lady spoke. She looked at Luli emotionlessly and said, "You are going to the Dragon Rebel Valley as well?" Luli nodded and said, "Yes, I'm going there to find someone." "Oh." The young lady was surprised. She asked, "You are related to the Dragon Rebel family?" "Not really," Luli said with a smile. "I just know a young lady of the family, and I am going there to run some errands." "I see." The young lady thought about it and asked You are cultivating the supreme, immortal body? I think it is at the initial success. The young lady had sharp eyes. Luli didn't try to hide it. He nodded and said, "Yes, you have sharp eyes. My immortal body has just reached the initial success." If I remember correctly, the young lady said with a smile, more than a decade ago, there was a warrior at the Blazing Island who had reached the initial success of the immortal body. He killed many patriarchs of the Wu family and many powerful warriors with thunderbolts. That person wouldn't be you, right? When a lady said this, the 4 Fifth Tribulation experts nearby all looked over, their eyes revealing faint vigilance. Luli's mind was weighed down, but he was open-minded. He cupped his fists and said, "Yes, it is me. Lady, are you going to take me back to the Wu family?" Hee. The young lady smiled faintly. Unfortunately, her face was full of wrinkles and looked a little strange. She said, "I'm not a member of the Wu family. Why should I help the Wu family? Moreover, you've already left the Silver Flame Sea region, so those grudges are no longer important." Luli cupped his fists and said, "Thank you for saving my life. May I know your name? In the future, I will repay your kindness." "It's nothing." The young lady waved her hand, thought for a moment, and said, "Names are not important. Now that we are safe, let's part ways. If we're fated, we'll meet again. If we're not, what's the point of knowing your name?" This young lady had the same temperament as Fire Rose. She didn't ask for anything in return. Since they were at different levels, they would see things from different perspectives. For example, Luli had helped some people before. He didn't do it for anything in return. Since the young lady didn't want to take him with her, Luli wouldn't follow her shamelessly. He bowed, cupped his fist to the 4th Tribulation experts, and flew into the distance. "Lady, is there something special about this young man?" An old man asked in confusion. They knew very well how proud and aloof this young lady was. She wouldn't even bother to look at average people. "Supreme immortal body is hard to cultivate," the young lady said slowly. "It is said that he is the descendant of Emperor Z, but it has been so many years. Has there ever been a supreme immortal body in the Yin family? What's more, he traveled across the Silver Flame Sea alone. He doesn't look like a disciple of the Yin family. I thought those mysterious warriors were in cahoots with him?" An old man asked in surprise. "Ha." The young lady sneered and said, "If they were in cahoots, why would he take a battleship to the Fire City by himself? Why would he take a battleship of the Palace of Smoke? He almost lost his life just now. That is to say, he might not be a disciple of a big family?" The old man asked. "Yes," the young lady nodded. Then she waved her hand and said, "Never mind. Let's go." An old man took out a chariot. They boarded in soon. They disappeared into the northern sky. Luli flew to another side. He kept a low profile, flying close to the ground while thinking about what to do next. This was the most central area of the battleship. Battles could break out at any time, and they could run into warriors of the 5th Tribulation or even the 6th Tribulation. After some thoughts, Luli decided to proceed with caution. If anything went wrong, he would fly into the void at once. He would use the mark of Tao at all times to sense the surroundings. He would change his direction at once if there was any sign of trouble. There were no warriors here. Luli only ran into some scouts after half a day of careful travel. Those scouts couldn't see him, and he could go around them easily. Luli found a cave and rested for the night. He was a bit tired after using the dragon manipulation skill, and he was injured. He felt much better after a night's rest. Luli moved on carefully. He wanted to spend more time as long as he could arrive at the Dragon Rebel Valley safely. After 2 days of traveling, Luli discovered that there was another messy battle ahead, and it was a large-scale one. He was troubled. He didn't dare to go through the center of the battlefield. He had to take a detour. Although this detour was safe, it took him 3 more days to successfully pass through this battlefield. That was it. Luli kept a low profile. He used the mark of Tao to sense the surroundings at all times. It was slow, but it was safe and stealthy. As long as he was not unlucky, he would be safe in this way. Luli was quite lucky. He kept a low profile. Even though he would run into some warriors now and then, he didn't run into any real powerful warriors. He had traveled for more than a month in peace and had covered hundreds of millions of miles. However, his good luck had finally run out today. He passed by a battlefield. He was on a flyby quietly. However, one side of the battlefield was defeated, and that side happened to be flying toward him. Move! When Lu Li sensed the presence of warriors of the fifth tribulation, he drew a formation in the void without any hesitation and flew in before the warriors reached him. Buzzing, by the time the warriors reached him, the golden door on Lu Li's side had been closed. There were still many warriors that came out of nowhere. Whoosh! Lu Li was upset. When he flew out from the golden door, there happened to be a battle nearby. When he came out from midair, he caught the attention of both sides. It's okay. Lu Li used psychic power to check. Neither side was powerful. There was only one warrior of the fifth tribulation on each side. Seeing so many people were looking at him, Lu Li cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Guys, go on. I'm just passing by. I won't disturb you any longer." Chapter 2476. After the time for a dozen breaths, Lu Li noticed something was wrong. There were more than a dozen powerful warriors fighting in front of him. Before he could slip away, he was targeted by them. Lu Li stopped at once. He cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Lords, I am just passing by. Just passing by. Go on." Swish! What answered Lu Li was a ray of dark glare. It came at him in an instant. Before Lu Li could react, he was hit. Boom! Lu Li was smashed away. His robe was torn, and a blood-red plum blossom appeared on his skin. Taking advantage of the momentum, Lu Li fell down and smashed into a mountain. Bang! Soon, he flew out from the other side of the mountain and dashed toward the west in a blur. An old warrior checked with psychic power and was surprised. How come Lu Li didn't sustain any serious injuries after taking one attack from him? He was a warrior at the middle stage of the fifth tribulation. Shui, can you do it or not? You can't even kill a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation? Ha, that's right. Shui Qianhua, don't come out and embarrass yourself if you are not powerful enough. Go back to your mountain of clouds. Not even a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation can kill him. Shui Qianhua really can't do it. Several powerful warriors nearby shouted. That gray-haired old man, Shui Qianhua, flew into a rage. He dashed toward Lu Li like a hawk. Lu Li wanted to fly into the void at once, but he felt miserable when he saw a man coming at him. If he were to be interrupted now, he would be seriously injured. If he were to fall into another battlefield, he would die for sure. He had to fly away. Soon, another ray of dark glare came. Lu Li's back was hit, and he was smashed away again. But soon, Lu Li flew up again. This man's long-range attacks were not powerful enough. Lu Li's skin was hurt, but he couldn't inflict serious damage. Lu Li sped up. He used the unfettered steps. He was faster than an average warrior at the initial stage of the fifth tribulation, but slower than this warrior at the middle stage of the fifth tribulation. Interesting. Shui Qianhua grinned. This warrior at the peak of the third tribulation could survive 2 of his attacks without sustaining serious injuries. How come he was so fast? Which family was he from? Shui Qianhua decided to take Lu Li's head back with him. He didn't want to be seen clearly. If he couldn't even kill a peak third tribulation cultivator, how was he supposed to survive? Bang, bang, bang. Lu Li was hit on the back repeatedly. His dragon wings were destroyed several times. His back was covered in blood, and his bones could be seen in many places. However, they were all superficial wounds, and he was not seriously injured. Lu Li released some worms of the void, the Slayer's move, and other skills. But for a warrior of the fifth tribulation, they were of little use. Xiao. Clearly, Shui Qianhua didn't want to waste any more time. Carrying his spear, he sped up and came to Lu Li's back in an instant. Lu Li took out the relic iron. Shui Qianhua didn't run anymore. He turned around and slapped at Shui Qianhua. Shui Qianhua was experienced. He slid to the left and swung his spear at Lu Li's shoulder. Boom, boom, boom. Shui Qianhua kept moving around and smashing at Lu Li with his spear. Luli was smashed away again and again. His body was riddled with wounds. I will have to let the daughter of the Holy King out. Luli forced a smile. The separation bee glowed, and the daughter of the Holy King came out. Blood Fairy directed the daughter to charge at Shui Qianhua. What? Shui Qianhua looked at the Saint Emperor's daughter and was immediately attracted. Firstly, the Saint Emperor's daughter was very beautiful. Secondly, the Saint Emperor's daughter's aura was very strange. She was like a dead person, and yet she was alive. Her emotionless eyes made Shui Qianhua's heart palpitate. Buzzing, Luli was drawing a formation in the void. A small golden door appeared. Shui Qianhua noticed it. He was about to stab at Shui Qianhua when the daughter of the Holy King landed a slap on his shoulder. His armor cracked, and he was smashed away. Blood Fairy, let's go, Luli shouted. Blood Fairy was Luli's slave. Even though she didn't want to let go of the daughter of the Holy King, she had no choice but to fly out. Before she flew out, she controlled the daughter of the Holy King to attack Shui Qianhua. Whoosh! Right at that moment, 3 huge battleships came from the east. On the front of each battleship was engraved a silver dragon. Luli and Shui Qianhua sensed powerful warriors on the battleships, which made their souls tremble. Blood Fairy! Luli saw the fear in Shui Qianhua's eyes. Before he flew to the small golden door, Luli made up his mind and shouted. Blood Fairy flew out and went back into the body of the daughter of the Holy King. She controlled the daughter of the Holy King to dash over and into Luli's separation bead. Shui Qianhua paid no more attention to Luli. He murmured in shock, "Why are the dragon rebel race here? Run!" Luli heard Shui Qianhua's voice. However, he had already entered the small golden door. Luli regretted not leaving. He had been looking for the dragon rebel race. Now that he had found them, he had missed the chance. Boom! A huge hand came out from the sky and slapped at the golden door that was about to disappear. The door collapsed. PFF! Luli was flying across the void when he was knocked out. His body was already covered in blood. Now it was even worse. Not a single part of his body was in good condition. As soon as he came out, he spat out some blood and fell to the ground. Before he passed out, he only had the time to take a look around. He saw that Luli was going into an abyss. Luli prayed to himself that there were no powerful beasts in the abyss, or else he would become food for the beasts. He could not tell how long had passed. 1 day, or 10. Luli had no consciousness. He woke up from his sleep. He felt he had had a long dream. He dreamt that he had become a child and was left in the snow. He was shivering in the cold and could not move his hands and feet. When he woke up, Luli used psychic power to check. He was shocked. He was in an ice cave. He was frozen as well. He had become an ice corpse. No, something is wrong. When Luli tried to sit up, he realized something. He could not move. He had lost control of his body. He could not use any divine energy. It seemed that the ice was different from regular ice cubes. There was a strange energy restraining his body. Luli thought for a moment and then sent a message to Blood Fairy. She reached out her tentacle from the separated heaven bead to check the surroundings. 2 hours later, Blood Fairy transmitted, "Master, this place is very strange. It is very likely that there are divine patterns of heaven and earth. The ice cubes here contain strange energy. Not only you, there are others nearby. They're all like you." Luli used psychic power to check. There were 16 people nearby. 15 of them had become corpses. The other one was still alive, but he could not move either. Stop it. Chapter 2477. The ice caves were famous at the Flying Fire Continent. This was not the only ice caves. There were 37 ice caves that had been discovered. It was a dangerous place at the Flying Fire Continent. Apart from Emperor Realm warriors and super powerful lords, no one could come out once they fell in. There was cold ice in the ice caves. Once one fell in, one would be frozen and his body would be separated from his soul. He could not move and could only wait for death. Either he would lose his mind, his soul would collapse, or his energy would run out and he would die. People living at the Flying Fire continent were warned since they were young that the ice caves should never be approached. Therefore, people at the Flying Fire continent had a common understanding that the area around the 37 ice caves was a dangerous place that should never be approached. There were strange divine patterns in the ice caves. The coldness in the caves could not be considered cold anymore. Once one fell in, one's soul and body would be separated from each other. One would lose all feeling. How could one be cold? Luli did not panic. He used psychic power to check the entire ice caves. Not only did he find more than a dozen bodies, but he also found many bones in the deeper parts. The only one alive was the old man on the left. He used psychic power to check and asked, "Sir, have you been trapped for 10,000 years?" The old man could not use his divine energy at all. He had no energy, so Luli could not sense his energy. But judging by the looks of the old man, he should not be a weak warrior. 10,000 years. 10,000 years or thousands of years. I don't even remember. The old man sighed deeply and transmitted his voice. There were a few people who fell in with me. They all went mad and died in the end. I've been here alone for nearly 10,000 years. I think I'm going crazy. Luckily, you came in. I think I can hold on for another few hundred years. Luli asked again, "Sir, you are not weak. Why can't you get out? Have you ever tried to find a way?" "My strength?" The old man thought about it, as if he could not remember. After a while, he replied, "I remember that I had just reached the sixth tribulation before I was trapped. In the ice caves, not even warriors at the later stage of the sixth tribulation can get out, let alone warriors at the initial stage of the sixth tribulation. The ice caves is recognized as a place of death on the Flying Fire continent. Little brother, stop messing around. We can't get out of this place. Even a late-stage sixth tribulation can't get out." Luli's mind was weighed down. Was he really going to become a living dead here like the old man? They were about to reach the Dragon Rebel Valley. If he was trapped here and died, he would be very unwilling. "Little brother," the elder said in a deep voice, "you must remain calm." The most terrifying thing about this ice demon lair isn't the ice, but the demonic sounds. Every 10 days to half a month, there will be demonic sounds. You must stabilize your mind and not die so easily. Otherwise, this old man will have no one to talk to. Demonic tune. Luli's soul trembled. He did not reply. He thought about it and said to Blood Fairy, "Blood Fairy, take a closer look and see if you can decipher the runes of the ice denver. I don't need to break it. I just need to free myself." "Yes, master," Blood Fairy replied. "The divine marks of heaven and earth here are too profound. I need more time. Master, don't be impatient. It will take at least a few months for you to have some ideas." Luli nodded and contacted me. Naturally, his purpose was to find out more information about the ice denver. The old man had been here for 10,000 years. He was like a living dead. Naturally, he was happy that someone could come in and chat with him. Regardless of the fact that Luli was weak and young, the old man kept chatting with Luli. A dying man's words were kind. The old man knew that he could not live on. Since he and Luli would both become bones, then there would be no difference in status. They were all humans, compatriots. The old man told Luli many things, such as why he was trapped here, which family he came from, and the descendants of his family. He had been alone for 10,000 years, with no one to talk to. He could not cultivate. Apart from sleeping, he could only stare blankly and wait for death. The fact that the old man had not lost his mind was a testament to his strong willpower. "Right, punk," the old man babbled for half a day. All of a sudden, he asked with curiosity, "Which family are you from? How did you end up here? You don't seem to know much about the ice denver. Are you not from the Flying Fire continent?" "No." Luli didn't hide anything. He said, "I am not even from the third heaven. I am from the mortal world. I came to the third heaven to look for someone." "Oh." The old man was surprised. "You're quite young. Did you ascend from the mortal world? Don't try to trick me. None of us can get out. It is pointless to trick an old man like me. You must be joking." Luli sent a voice transmission. "What is there to cheat about this? I ascended to the Zeon continent, and then went to the chilly winter continent. After that, I went to the divine wind continent. I crossed the Silver Flame Sea region and arrived at the Flying Fire continent not long ago. I did not expect to fall into this ice demon cave. The Ziyang continent? I have been to the chilly winter continent and the wind continent, but not the Ziyang continent. The old man believed him. He asked another question. You came to the Flying Fire continent to look for someone? Do you have any relatives here? Luli thought about it and said, Do you know the Dragon Rebel race? The Dragon Rebel race? The old man was surprised. Of course. It is one of the 27 major forces of the Flying Fire continent. Back in the days, I used to be friends with a big shot of the Dragon Rebel race. Wait, kid, the Dragon Rebel race does not form marriages with outsiders. Since you are from the mortal world, how can you be related to the Dragon Rebel race? I have a sister. Luli didn't hide the fact that the old man was friends with the Dragon Rebel race. He said, My father adopted a child, and she is from the Dragon Rebel race. I don't know how she ended up in the mortal world, but I am sure that she is from the Dragon Rebel race. I am here to look for her. She went missing many years ago. I learned from some sources that she was taken back to the Dragon Rebel race. Oh, there's such a thing. The old man was interested now. He chatted with Lu Li for a long time. Lu Li learned that the old man's surname was Luo, and his nickname was Tian Yazi. He was born in a super family, one of the 70 major forces in the 20th century. He was on a journey when he was chased by his enemies and fell here. After so many years, his family must have thought he was dead. Kid, stop talking. After an unknown period of time, the old man suddenly transmitted his voice. According to the time, the demonic sound is coming soon. If you can't withstand it, your soul will immediately collapse. Remember, guard your mind and don't be disturbed by the outside world. As long as you can keep the seed of your soul alive, you can stand the demonic sound. Otherwise, your soul will collapse and you will die immediately. Okay. Chapter 2478. The most horrifying thing in the Den of Ice was not the ice, but the demonic sound. This was the consensus of the entire Flying Fireland. The demonic sound was not only coming from inside the Den of Ice. If one was 30 miles away from the Den of Ice, one could hear some faintly discernible demonic sounds. Soon the demonic sound came. At first, it was low like the heartbeat of a huge beast. As soon as the sound came, Luli felt his soul was trembling along with it. Calm down. A voice transmission rang out. It was Tian Yazi. Don't follow the rhythm of the demonic music, or you'll fall into the abyss. Tian Yazi's words were like a stick to Lu Li's head. Lu Li guarded his mind so that his soul would not be affected. He noticed something. The dragon soul had no reaction. It meant that the demonic sound here was strange. It was not a direct attack on the soul, so the dragon soul would not protect its master. Thump, 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 the beast's heartbeat was getting faster. Inevitably, Lu Li's soul was trembling. Luckily, Tian Yazi reminded him. Lu Li restrained himself so that he would not be led by the rhythm. The heartbeat stopped after the time it took for an incense stick to burn. Then, an indistinct sobbing sound rang out. It was like the sound of a ghost. The sobbing sound was very rhythmic, as though a sorrowful melody was being played. The sobbing continued for a moment before changing into a strange sound. The sound was like a strange musical instrument playing, and it was very pleasant to listen to. There seemed to be some Tao in the sound that could make people immerse themselves in it and explore the truth. Luli fell into a trance. But soon, Tian Yazi's voice came, Little Lu, don't try to understand. Don't try, or you will fall into it. Wake up. Luli came back to his senses. He recalled what happened just now. If he could sweat, he would be drenched in cold sweat. The melody went on. It was like a fairy's voice, melodious and sweet. But Luli could not listen to it anymore. He had to keep his mind at all times. However, it wasn't as if you didn't want to listen to the demonic voice. It would automatically ring in your soul. Wake up, little Lu, wake up. Tian Yazi clearly didn't want Lu Li's soul to collapse. He would remind Lu Li every now and then. Many times, Lu Li would fall into a trance. Thanks to Tian Yazi's reminder, Lu Li finally woke up. The demonic sound lasted for an hour before it finally died down. Luli was relieved. Making sure that the noise had stopped, Luli rested for a while before he said, "Lord Tian Yazi, thank you. If it wasn't for you this time, I would probably be dead. We're all in the same boat. If you die, I'll have no one to talk to. I'll probably die in a few hundred years." Tian Yazi transmitted his voiceover, and then continued, "This demonic sound actually has its benefits. It can really temper one's soul. Every time you endure it, your soul will strengthen a little. I've endured here for 10,000 years. Now, the strength of my soul is comparable to a peak sixth tribulation cultivator. This old man has also comprehended many types of soul spirit secret arts. Unfortunately, there is no place for me to use them. Senior Tian Yazi, there's no need to be too pessimistic." Luli replied, "I have a goblin spirit. You should be able to sense it. It is very knowledgeable in divine glyphs. Maybe you can find a way to solve the divine glyphs here." "Really?" Tian Yazi was slightly taken aback, after which a bitter smile appeared on his face as he transmitted his voice over. "The heavenly inscriptions here are extremely profound. Many divine inscriptionists of the Soaring Fire continent have attempted to unravel them, but even after so many years, no one has succeeded. Little Lu, it's best if you don't waste your efforts. Let's try. What if it works?" Luli replied with a smile. At the same time, Luli checked his soul. It was getting stronger. There was a clear growth, and the growth was ongoing. Tian Yazi stopped after chatting for a while. Luli rested for a while as well, waiting for Blood Fairy's result. He waited for half a year. The sound would come every 10 days. Every time, Luli would have to rely on Tian Yazi's help. Otherwise, he would have to go in every time. Once he was lost, his soul might collapse. During the half a year, Luli's soul had grown by leaps and bounds. As Tian Yazi said, if he could survive for 10,000 years, his soul would improve by leaps and bounds. Tian Yazi must have been lonely for too long. He chatted with Luli nonstop. Luli could not concentrate on studying laws, so he chatted with Tian Yazi. Today, Blood Fairy finally sent a message. "Master, I have checked many times. The divine glyphs here are special. I do not know what to do at the moment, but I think there is a glimmer of hope. I need time to study." "How long?" Blood Fairy was not bluffing. When she said there was a glimmer of hope, Luli did not lose all hope. Blood Fairy replied with uncertainty, "A year or two at the shortest, or 8 to 10 years at the longest. If I cannot succeed in 10 years, then I don't think I can do it." Okay, it was not a long time. Luli could afford to wait for 10 years. It was a pity that he could not cultivate divine energy or consume elixirs here. The only thing he could do was to study divine glyphs. Luli sent Blood Fairy's message to Tian Yazi, who did not take it seriously. Luli was only a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation, and that spirit was nothing special. What was more, Luli came from the mortal world, and it had only been a few years since he came to the third plane. Could he solve the divine glyphs here? Tian Yazi did not believe so. Luli told Tian Yazi that he would cultivate for a while. Tian Yazi nodded without saying anything. There was still a long way to go. Tian Yazi had lost all hope. He just wanted to be less lonely before he died. Luli's company could buy him more time. Luli entered the dreamland state to study the fundamental principle of divine sounds. Every 10 days, he would be interrupted by the demonic sounds. With Tian Yazi's help, Luli passed through the dangerous stages and continued to study. Demonic sounds? Divine sounds? One day, Luli had an idea. Could the demonic sounds help him learn the law of divine sounds? He had been studying the law of divine sounds for many years, and he had been stuck at the last few bottlenecks. If he could be inspired by the demonic sounds, he might be able to master the law of divine sounds quickly. The thing was that demonic sounds were horrifying. Luli could not lose himself in them. He would be doomed if he could not wake up. Tian Yazi had warned him many times that the demonic sounds could not be lost in them. Once the rhythm was taken away, he would not be able to wake Luli up no matter how hard he tried. Well, let's wait for 2 or 3 years. Luli thought. In a few years, his soul would grow a lot. By then, if he had not learned the law of divine sounds, then he would take the risk. Blood Fairy should have made some progress in 2 or 3 years. She had been studying the ancient divine glyphs all the time, and her knowledge of divine glyphs was improving rapidly. Luli believed that Blood Fairy would not let him down. She could help him escape. P.S. Towards the end, you will feel tired. There is one more chapter at night. Chapter 2479. The outside world was still filled with smoke, and the battle was still going on. The Cave of Ice, on the other hand, was dead silent. Nobody was paying attention to this place. Even those that were passing by would go around. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed. Luli and Tion Yazi had been staying in the cave like the living dead. They could not move a finger or even open their eyes. Fortunately, the divine energy in Luli's core was surging. That divine energy would not circulate on its own, but when he was weak, some would leak out to replenish his energy. That was how Tion Yazi survived. The divine energy in the core of a lord was abundant. It was not a problem for him to stay alive for tens of thousands of years. During the 2 years, Luli did not cultivate divine energy or consume any elixirs. The only thing he did was to study the law of sound. During the 2 years, he had made some progress. He had overcome 2 bottlenecks. But there was one thing that he could not figure out. Luli had a feeling that if he could understand this, he would not be far from mastering the law of sound. The only thing he gained was that his soul was 10 times stronger. Every time he heard the sound, Luli's soul would grow, and the growth would last for 7 to 8 days. The sound would come once every 10 days. Therefore, during the 2 years, Luli's soul had been growing for more than half of the time. It was easy to understand why his soul had become more than 10 times stronger. Luli was getting agitated because Blood Fairy had not sent him any messages during the 2 years. Anyone who couldn't move their body for 2 years would feel very irritated and depressed. Luli had a strong will. This predicament was not enough to drive him mad. Part of the reason why he was agitated was that he had not mastered the law of sound. He decided to take the risk and study the law of sound through the sound. For one thing, his soul was much stronger, which gave him more confidence. For another, Tion Yazi was here. If Tion Yazi was still in there, Luli could ask Blood Fairy to attack his soul so that the dragon soul could protect him. Perhaps he could wake up. After 2 years, Luli and Tion Yazi had become familiar with each other. He didn't hold back and transmitted his thoughts to Tion Yazi. Tion Yazi pondered for a moment and transmitted his voice. I don't recommend you to take the risk, but if you insist, I can only wish you good luck. I'll think of a way to wake you up, but if you can't, there's nothing I can do. Thank you, big brother. Luli used to call Tion Yazi Sr. But after 2 years, their relationship had grown so close that Luli called him brother. Luli fell asleep after the talk with Tion Yazi. When he woke up after 2 days, the demonic sound was coming. He put in all his effort to adjust his state, ready to welcome the arrival of the demonic sound. Dong, dong, dong. Luli was not interested in this sound, so he didn't pay any attention to it. Luli tried his best to remain calm for the ghost sound. He only began to sense it carefully when he heard the fairy-like sound at the end. The sound was very pleasant to listen to, like a beautiful piece of music. There was also an inexplicable rhythm in the sound, which made people feel very mysterious. Previously, Luli didn't have the courage to try, but this time, he threw caution to the wind and tried to comprehend the mysterious rhythm in the demonic sound. The rhythm was beautiful. Luli sensed many things from it. It was blurry and he could not see clearly, but he felt it was mysterious. Luli fell into a state of silence at once. His soul was immersed in the melody. He forgot everything else. The only thing left in his soul was the melody. Little Lu, wake up! Little Lu, wake up! After a moment, Tion Yazi sensed something was not right. He sent a message at once and used soul skills, which sounded like thunder in Luli's mind. But Luli did not move. His soul seemed to have fallen into a trance. Blood Fairy attacked Luli's soul as well. The dragon's soul glowed to protect Lu Li's soul. However, this time, the dragon's soul did not seem to work. The dragon's soul glowed. Lu Li's soul was quiet, without any movement. It was as if he had become a living dead person. Oh no, I told him not to do anything stupid, but he didn't listen. Alas, I thought with someone here, I can hold on for a while longer. Little Lu is dead. I don't think I can hold on much longer. Never mind, never mind. If I can't hold on, then so be it. I will die eventually. It doesn't matter if I die sooner or later. Tian Yazi shouted for several days. Seeing that Lu Li did not move, he gave up. He had seen this many times. Many people who fell into this place with him would fall into a trance and never wake up. In the end, Lu Li's soul would disappear silently, and he would become a corpse. Time moved on. Half a month had passed, and Lu Li still did not wake up. The second time the melody came, Lu Li did not respond. When the melody faded away, Tian Yazi sighed to himself. He paid no more attention to Lu Li. Blood Fairy was worried. She called out twice and attacked Lu Li's soul many times. Eventually, the dragon's soul protected her. She was almost devoured by the dragon's soul. Since she could not wake Lu Li up, there was nothing else she could do. The body of the daughter of the Holy King was in the wandering bead. Lu Li could not use any divine energy. Therefore, the wandering bead could not be used, and the daughter of the Holy King could not come out. Even if she could come out, Blood Fairy believed that the daughter of the Holy King would not be able to move her body. The patterns here were too profound. Half a month later, Blood Fairy decided not to worry about it anymore. She went back to studying the patterns. She knew there was only one way to save Lu Li, which was to crack the patterns and let Tian Yazi take Lu Li out. Time moved on. Every half a month, the melody would come again, but Lu Li did not move. His soul was like a pool of stagnant water. There was no movement, as if there would never be any movement. Soon, 3 years had passed. Blood Fairy did not make any progress, and Lu Li still did not move. What surprised Tian Yazi was that 3 years had passed, and Lu Li's soul had not dissipated. Theoretically speaking, Lu Li's soul should disappear in a year at most. Not only did it not disappear, but during the 3 years, Lu Li's soul had grown stronger. His soul energy was vigorous. It was understandable that his soul was stronger. After all, the melody could strengthen his soul. However, Lu Li's soul had not dissipated, which was confusing. All of a sudden, a laugh came from Tian Yazi's soul. Tian Yazi trembled in fear. He thought he had seen a ghost in broad daylight. Then Tian Yazi came back to his senses. Little Lu, you have come back to life. Ha. Lu Li replied with a smile. Brother Tian Yazi, I am not dead. Why do you say I have come back to life? I'm just in closed-door cultivation. I have some understanding of the melody. The melody cannot hurt me. After 3 years, I have finally mastered the law of melody. It is a pity that we cannot move. Otherwise, I would like to have a drink with you. Alas! Chapter 2480. If he could not get out, learning several fundamental principles would be of no use. This was the truth. Lu Li's joy was doused with a pail of cold water. He thought for a moment and asked Blood Fairy, Master, you are awake. Blood Fairy continued, I have some ideas about the divine patterns here, but I am not sure that I can solve them. But there is another piece of good news. I have taken control of that horn. Master, you can use it any time. At any time? Lu Li forced a smile. He could not even move a finger. What could he do even if he could take control of that painting, let alone the horn? Forget about the ancient treasures. Find a way to solve the divine patterns and let me out. Lu Li sent a message and Blood Fairy replied. Then she went back to studying the divine patterns. This was one of the best things about Blood Fairy. She would never feel tired or emotional. All she knew was to study the divine patterns. Her world was divine patterns. Apart from Lu Li's orders, she would not care about anything else. Blood Fairy did not have the messy thoughts of humans. She only focused on comprehending the divine inscriptions. She did not have the messy thoughts of humans. She only focused on comprehending the divine inscriptions. Under such circumstances, how could she slow down her progress in divine patterns? Luli left Blood Fairy alone. He took a break and began to chat with Tian Yazi. Anyways, the study of the law of divine sounds had put him in a good mood. After all, he had finally succeeded after so many years. Anyone would feel a sense of joy at overcoming a difficult obstacle. The fact that Luli could learn the law of divine sounds had much to do with the demonic sounds. The demonic sounds here had inspired Luli greatly. Many things that he could not figure out were answered in the Xian laws contained in the demonic sounds. The demonic sounds here did contain many Xian laws in heaven and earth. The ice cave was an enigmatic place in heaven and earth. It contained some laws and profound meanings in heaven and earth. Luli did not lose himself in the demonic sounds. He had learned many laws of divine sounds over the years, which had given him a good mastery of music. Therefore, he could stand the demonic sounds and not lose himself. After chatting with Tian Yazi for a while, Luli went back to cultivation to stabilize the law of divine sounds. The law of divine sounds was an offensive law. Luli did not know how powerful it was. He had to go out and test it out. The divine sound law was a type of soul attack. Furthermore, it was a very complicated soul attack. When releasing divine sound, the enemy would not only be lost in the illusion, but they would also be attacked by soul energy. In addition, divine sound would produce sonic booms that would affect their eardrums and souls. Furthermore, the divine sound attacks were continuous. They were like tidal waves, one wave after another, growing more and more ferocious and powerful. He would probably have to unleash them in the future to find out just how powerful they were. After half a month, Luli was sure that he had mastered the law of sound. He was reassured. He fell into a deep slumber. After sleeping for 2 days, he had nothing to do, so he began to chat with Tian Yazi via voice transmission. Of course, he was mostly asking for advice. Tian Yazi was a Lord-level powerhouse, the chaotic world demon, who had lived for more than 200,000 years. Any skill he taught Luli would benefit immensely. What's the use of learning this? Tian Yazi was speechless. We can't even get out. So what's the point of you learning this? Stop messing around. Just stay here obediently. Hee. Luli replied with a smile. Brother, don't be so pessimistic. I have a 30 to 40% chance that we can get out. Oh, Tian Yazi was surprised. Then he asked with delight, Little Lu, are you sure? After spending some time with Luli, Tian Yazi had some trust in Luli. He believed that Luli was not one to brag. Even though Luli said he only had a 30 to 40% chance, it was still a great hope. Tian Yazi was excited. He asked with excitement, That goblin of yours is that good? Many old guys can't do anything about the divine patterns here. That's because they didn't come down. They don't have the courage to study in there. Luli analyzed rationally. Brother, think about it. They don't have the courage to come in, and they can only explore from the outside. How can we solve the formation? If they come in, they will be frozen and can't do anything. How can they solve the formation? That makes sense. Tian Yazi became even more excited. He smiled and transmitted his voice. Little Lu, if you can solve it and bring me out, let alone 1 or 2 secret techniques, I can even teach you all my secret techniques. I still owe you my life. For a person who had been trapped here for tens of thousands of years as a living dead, there was nothing more precious than freedom. As long as Luli could take him out, Luli would be his second parent. Luli's kindness was more important than saving his life. Brother, don't worry. Luli poured cold water on him. You have been waiting for 10,000 years. A year and a half doesn't matter. 1 year at most. I can give you accurate information on whether you can solve the formation or not. Okay. Tian Yazi was relieved. A year was too short for him. He thought for a moment and said, Little Lu, tell me about your abilities and divine arts. I'll help you analyze them. Okay. It was Luli's turn to be excited. It was great to have a powerful warrior of the Lord Realm to analyze and give him advice. Usually, a powerful warrior of this level wouldn't even look at Luli, not to mention patiently giving him advice. Luli trusted Tian Yazi. No matter how this man's conduct was, he would not harm Luli now. Luli told Tian Yazi about his situation in detail, leaving nothing out. Apart from the marks of the Tao on his body, he told Tian Yazi about some secrets. He even told Tian Yazi about the divine iron he had. After Tian Yazi heard this, he went silent, clearly analyzing. After half a day, he sent a voice transmission. Little Lu, to be able to reach the third heavenly layer from the mortal world in such a short period of time, I have to say that you are a genius. But you have a fatal weakness. Your foundation is too weak. Brother, you are right. Luli agreed wholeheartedly. He knew what he was like and what he was like. After all, his cultivation time was too short. His starting point was too low. He wasn't born into a wealthy family. His foundation was too weak. For many people, it was a miracle that he could make it to where he was today. You have achieved initial success in the Supreme Divine Body, and you did it on your own. That is rare. Chapter 2481. Just how terrifying was a superpower strength. Luli had stayed at the Een family. Compared to the Dragon Rebel race, the Een family was not as powerful. That being said, the territory and resources owned by the Een family were impressive. The elixirs given to Luli were worth hundreds of billions of divine stones. What was more, Luli was given 100 billion divine stones. How many people were there in the Een family? How many resources were consumed each year? It was impossible to calculate. The 27 forces were all more powerful than the Een family. Many of them had been entrenched in the land for millions of years. The resources and wealth they had accumulated were horrifying. So many families had spent hundreds of thousands of years and a vast amount of resources. Yet, they could not create a supreme immortal body. It was not hard to imagine how difficult it was to cultivate the immortal body. Okay, I understand. Luli replied with a heavy heart. He knew how difficult it was to achieve the initial success of the immortal body. He was only at the second level, and he didn't know when he could reach the third level. To achieve the ultimate success, he would have to pay a price 10,000 times or even 100,000 times more than before. After some thoughts, Tian Yazi continued, "Your realm is too low. Regular skills are of little use to you. You cannot unleash their power. Now that you have made progress in the aspect of sounds, you can try to learn soul attacks first. I'll teach you a secret technique to cultivate your soul. This secret technique can make your soul power more offensive. Originally, soul power's offensive power wasn't strong, but after you cultivate this secret technique, your soul power will turn into soul needles. Every strand of soul power will have an extremely strong offensive power." "Okay, thank you, brother," Luli said with delight. Tian Yazi was a powerful warrior of the Lord Realm. He had nothing to do over the past 10,000 years except to study soul attacks. The soul skill he had learned must be of a high level. Tian Yazi passed on the soul skill to Luli. It was complicated. It took Luli an hour to memorize it. He began to cultivate at once to study the skill. Once he started, Luli felt he could not stop. The skill was mysterious and novel. Luli felt he had opened up a whole new world. He cultivated for 2 months. Finally, Luli learned the skill. He chatted with Tian Yazi for a while and was sure that he was on the right track. Although he had comprehended the secret technique, it would take a long time to cultivate his soul power into soul needles. The soul was a very important place. Soul power was the source of the soul's power. The soul couldn't be messed around, and the soul couldn't be messed around either. Otherwise, it would be very easy for problems to occur. Since Blood Fairy did not say anything, Luli began to cultivate soul skills with peace of mind. It would take him at least a year or two to turn his soul energy into soul needles. If he cultivated slowly, it would take at least 3 to 5 years. It was extremely quiet in the Cave of Demons. Luli and Tian Yazi were lying at the bottom of the cave like the living dead. They were frozen and there was no sound. Every 13 or 14 days, there would be demonic music but it was useless against Tian Yazi. For Lu Li, it was no longer effective. Therefore, his closed-door cultivation was quite peaceful. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. Lu Li's progress was quite smooth. The most important thing was that he had a famous teacher next to him to guide him. Also, he had a good comprehension ability, so his cultivation speed was fast. A year and a half later, most of Lu Li's soul energy had been transformed into soul needles. When the soul needles attacked, the soul energy would become needles that could penetrate every opening. The soul attack will be much more powerful. A year and a half later, all of Lu Li's soul energy had been transformed into soul needles. Of course, as his soul grew stronger, so would his soul energy. He would have to continue the transformation. During the year and a half, Lu Li's soul had improved a lot. If he could move his body and cultivate, this place would be a land of treasure. As long as he could resist the demonic music, his soul would grow stronger, much faster than consuming elixirs. Another half a month later, Blood Fairy said, "Master, I have an idea. I am 70% sure that I can help you get out. Give me half a year." Blood Fairy's voice was like a fairy's. Lu Li was overjoyed. When Lu Li sent a message to Tian Yazi, the latter was thrilled. He kept talking to Lu Li for half a day. "Punk, your defense is good. Then I will teach you a super defensive skill. If you can master it, not even warriors at the middle stage of the fifth tribulation can kill you. Not even warriors at the latter stage of the fifth tribulation can kill you instantly." Tian Yazi was delighted. He taught Lu Li another skill. It was a skill of his own creation called Heaven Armor. This skill was powerful. If it were not for Lu Li, Tian Yazi would not have taught it to Tian Yazi's descendants. When the skill was delivered, Lu Li studied it casually. He was overjoyed. He did not have to study it fully to understand how powerful this skill was. When he could master it, his defense would be at least 10 times stronger. More importantly, this skill did not form a shield outside his body, but inside his body. There was not just one layer of defense, but 3, which could greatly enhance his physical defense. Lu Li began to study it once. However, this skill was complicated. He had to form 3 layers of defense inside his body and use divine energy to build 3 powerful formations. It was difficult to learn. Time moved on. Tian Yazi was getting impatient. Since Lu Li was cultivating, Tian Yazi could not ask too many questions. He had to wait anxiously. Half a year passed by quickly. Lu Li was still in cultivation. But something happened today. The temperature in the ice cavern suddenly rose. How strong was Tian Yazi's psychic power? He could sense the slightest movement in the ice cavern. He could sense the changes in the ice demon lair. He could feel the temperature in the ice demon lair rising. What did the rising temperature mean? It meant that they could no longer be frozen and they might be able to move their bodies. As long as they could move one finger and use a bit of divine energy, Tian Yazi was confident that he could make it out. Tian Yazi was getting more and more excited. He kept an eye on the surroundings. Half a day later, the temperature was still rising. His soul was trembling more and more violently. Bang! After another half a day, the ice on Tian Yazi's body suddenly cracked inch by inch. His body shot up and he roared at the sky, his voice echoing endlessly in the ice demon cave. Lu Li came back to his senses. Before he could react, Blood Fairy had snuck into his body. Then a huge hand grabbed him and carried him up to the sky. Lu Li felt his body had become his. His blood began to flow and divine energy surged out from his pellet. At that moment, Lu Li felt he had come back to life. Ha! Ha ha! Tian Yazi burst into laughter when he saw the bare mountains outside. His laughter spread to an area with a radius of thousands of miles. Even though Tian Yazi was laughing, his eyes were misty and there were tears in his eyes. He was weak, but his breaths were short and his chest was heaving up and down. Finally, you are out. Blood Fairy, well done. Chapter 2482. Little Lu, you have saved my life. Little Lu, it is all thanks to you. I can't believe I can see the light of day again. Little Lu, let's go. Let's find a place to eat and drink and celebrate. When Tion Yazi came out, he was like a beast that had been chained up for days. He was as excited as a child. Luli forced a smile and said, "Brother, you have been frozen for more than 10,000 years. Don't be in such a hurry to eat and drink. Let's rest here for a couple of days. There's a war going on out there. If we run into powerful warriors, we will be in trouble." "Powerful warriors?" Tion Yazi sneered and said, "I haven't made much progress in my realm over the years, but my soul attacks are powerful. Anyone that dares to mess with me will be courting death. But you are right. A couple of days of rest is not a big deal." Luli and Tion Yazi both took out elixirs to recover. Luli was weak after being frozen for years. It would take him several months to fully recover. That being said, they could recover a lot after a couple of days of rest. Several days later, Tion Yazi opened his eyes. His pupils shone with divine light, and his body was surging with energy. If he was like a tiger that had been starved for days before, he was like a dragon that had just woken up. "Let's go." When Luli opened his eyes, Tion Yazi grabbed him with one hand and dashed toward the north in a blur. Tion Yazi had been trapped for more than 10,000 years. Now that he was free, he wanted to have a good drink. At the same time, he wanted to get some information. Boom, boom, boom. They had been flying for an hour when they heard some noises of explosion. Luli and Tion Yazi checked with psychic power. Soon, they didn't pay too much attention. There were hundreds of warriors fighting over there, but there was only one warrior at the initial stage of the fifth tribulation. Even Luli could deal with it, let alone Tion Yazi. Whoosh! Luli and Tion Yazi didn't want to make trouble, but someone came over. Tion Yazi restrained his energy, and Luli's was not strong. Two warriors at the peak of the fourth tribulation came over. One of them shouted, "Who are you? Piss off." Tion Yazi wasn't a kind person to begin with, and after being sealed in ice for over 10,000 years, his heart had long since accumulated a billowing evil aura. He slapped out with his hand, and before the two of them could even react, they were smashed into a bloody mist. Tion Yazi snorted coldly. In the distance, a fifth tribulation expert sensed the situation and immediately flew over with a few people. A fifth tribulation expert's divine will locked onto Tion Yazi and said, "Who are you? How dare you slaughter the people of our demon-subduing palace?" "Demon-subduing palace? What's that?" Tion Yazi sneered and waved his hand. A huge palm appeared and slapped toward them. The fifth tribulation expert's pupils constricted. He wanted to dodge, but Tion Yazi's eyes flashed, and he couldn't move. Boom! The sky shook and the earth trembled. A deep pit appeared on the ground. That fifth tribulation expert and the others were smashed into meat paste. They were actually killed in an instant. The hundreds of people who were fighting on the other side checked with psychic power. All of their expressions changed. Then, without any hesitation, they stopped fighting. They all turned into a flock of birds and beasts and fled to the distance. Tion Yazi and Luli didn't bother to chase after them. They flew on. An hour later, they found a small city. They entered the city and looked at the bustling crowd. The city was bustling with noise and excitement. The two of them felt as if they had been in another world. "Bring me 10 jars of your best wine and the best dishes." Tion Yazi and Luli went to the best tavern in the city. Tion Yazi hid his chi and energy, or else a sixth tribulation warrior would raise eyebrows. Luli threw out a bag of divine stones. The waiter in the tavern became attentive. Good wine and dishes were served one after another. Luli and Tion Yazi gulped down the wine and meat. "This is great, this is great." Tion Yazi laughed as he ate. His voice was so loud that people nearby looked over. But Tion Yazi didn't care. He ate and drank to his heart's content with Luli. Finally, Tion Yazi's laughter displeased others. A well-dressed young master next to him snorted and said, "Where did this bumpkin come from? Get out if you don't know the rules." Slap! Tion Yazi waved his hand, and all the people at the table were smashed away. But he noticed that they didn't smash through the wall. They flew out through the window. Tian Yazi didn't kill anyone. He just showed his hand. Naturally, he didn't want to be disturbed. Luli didn't care. The most powerful warrior in a small city was only at the fifth tribulation. What was there to be afraid of? Whoosh, 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 soon warriors came. Violence was forbidden in the city. The young master must have some status in the city. The young master said a few words, and the soldiers on this side let out a shrill whistle, and countless soldiers immediately gathered here. Tian Yazi didn't mind. He kept on eating and drinking. Luli didn't mind either. They drank to each other. None of the warriors here dared to make a move. They were waiting for reinforcements. Whoosh! A fifth tribulation warrior flew over. He stood in midair and fixed his eyes on Tian Yazi. He shouted, "Who are you?" "I am Chun Gong of the Demon Subduing Palace. You are making trouble in the city. Do you want to make an enemy of the Demon Subduing Palace? Make an enemy of the Demon Subduing Palace? You are not worthy." Tian Yazi shouted coldly. "Master is in a good mood today. Don't provoke me. Otherwise, when your master comes, I can kill him with one slap." Tian Yazi's attitude infuriated him to the extreme, and he turned to charge forward. Tian Yazi's gaze swept over, and that person's body seemed to have been struck by lightning, swaying as he fell to the ground. "Master Chun!" The people around were shocked. They surrounded him, only to find that Master Chun was no longer breathing. He just took a look and didn't attack. How could he kill a fifth tribulation warrior? Everyone in the city gasped. A commander immediately left with Chun Gong's body. At the same time, he quickly went to send a message. But no one dared to find trouble with Lu Li and Tian Yazi anymore. After eating and drinking, Lu Li called a waiter over and asked him about the situation nearby. The waiter answered with fear. Luckily, Lu Li only asked some simple questions. Everyone knew about these things. Otherwise, the waiter wouldn't have the courage to answer. The battle between the four forces was still going on, and it was getting more and more intense. The battle between the Dragon Rebel Valley and the Watercloud Palace was the fiercest. The Watercloud Palace was one of the 27 forces and the sworn enemy of the Dragon Rebel Valley. The Demon Subduing Palace was one of the forces under the banner of the Watercloud Palace. The Chilean Peak in the north is one of the main battlefields of the Dragon Rebel Valley and the Watercloud Palace. Luli was excited when he heard the news. He was going to look for the Dragon Rebel clan. It would be best if the Dragon Rebel clan was fighting nearby. "Little Lu, are you going to find the Dragon Rebel tribe?" Tian Yazi guessed what Luli was thinking. He thought about it and said, "How about this? I will take you to the Dragon Rebel tribe. When you find them, you go to the Dragon Rebel Valley to handle some matters. I will go back to my family to have a look. When you are done, come to my family to find me." Okay. Luli knew that Tian Yazi must be in a hurry to go back to his family to learn about the situation after he had been missing for so many years. Luli saved Tian Yazi's life, and Tian Yazi gave him 2 secret skills. Luli didn't think Tian Yazi owed him anything. Let's go. Chapter 2483. The two left, but the Palace of Demons didn't say anything. The Palace of Demons was just a force under the command of the Watercloud Hall. They only had a few powerful warriors of the Lord Realm, and one of them died in the previous bloody battle. They were still in the middle of a war, so it was not worthwhile to fight a mysterious, powerful warrior of the Lord Realm. Only a powerful warrior of the Lord Realm could kill a warrior of the Fifth Tribulation in an instant, not to mention that this man used soul attacks, which was the most troublesome attack. The Chilean Peak was not far from the city, but not close either. It would only take Tian Yazi 2 or 3 days to get there at full speed. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, Luli asked after some thoughts, "Bro, do you think you can escape if you encounter a powerful warrior of the Lord Realm with your current abilities? Why are you asking this?" Tian Yazi was surprised. Then he explained, "It depends on the level of the warrior of the Sixth Tribulation. The average ones of the Sixth Tribulation pose no threat to me. I can kill them easily if they annoy me. I haven't fully recovered yet, so I should be able to deal with them at the later stage of the Sixth Tribulation. The ones at the peak of the sixth tribulation might be able to kill me. Are there many of them? How many of them are there in the water cloud hall? Luli asked. I don't know. Tian Yazi shook his head and said, 10,000 years ago, I think there were 3 or 4 of them. It has been more than 10,000 years. Who knows if there are any new ones? Also, they are not in a melee anymore. Maybe there are more of them. That means it's not much. Luli grinned and said, Bro, I have a god speedboat. How about we go there on it? It will be faster, but it will be a bit flashy. Ha ha ha. Tian Yazi laughed. He glanced at Luli and said, Punk, you have such a treasure? Take it out. What's so flashy about it? Our family has no quarrel with the 4 families. Nobody dares to do anything to me if I show my identity. Even if I don't, the Water Cloud Hall has nothing to fear unless they send out an emperor. Okay. Luli took out the Godspeed boat at once, and they went in. Tian Yazi took a look and waved his hand. I will cultivate and recover my strength in case something happens. Don't fly too fast. Call me if anything happens. All right. Luli controlled the godly speedboat to fly on. At the same time, he consumed some herbs. He didn't care if they were wasted or not. His priority now was to recover his abilities. The Godspeed boat pierced through the sky. Luli slowed down the Godspeed boat. Originally, the Godspeed boat would only take half a day. Luli tried to make it within 1 day so that Tian Yazi could recover. Luli used the trace of the Great Path to sense the fluctuations in the space around him. If there were people fighting nearby, he would steer the Godspeed boat to go around. With the speed of the divine speedboat, ordinary martial artists would not be able to catch up. As long as the demon's subduing palace did not deliberately target them, it would be fine. In just an hour, Luli had run into several teams. However, Luli had already steered the Godspeed boat to go around them. Once the Godspeed boat sped up, average warriors could not catch up. 6 hours later, Luli consumed some more herbs. He had so many that he didn't mind wasting some as long as he could restore his abilities as soon as possible. During the 6 hours, Luli had run into many people. There were many big and small battles. Often, he would run into hundreds of people. Once, he ran into thousands of people and several Fifth Tribulation warriors. But none of them attacked the Godspeed boat. For one thing, Luli had steered the Godspeed boat away in time. For another, the Godspeed boat was too fast. Another reason was that average warriors could not catch up with the Godspeed boat. Almost all the powerful warriors knew about the Godspeed boat. Those who could ride on a Godspeed boat were big shots. They dared not to act recklessly. Who are you? Another 2 hours later, 2 Fifth Tribulation warriors appeared in front of him. They were flying towards him from afar with weapons in their hands, ready to attack at any time. Luli didn't dare to act recklessly in front of 2 Fifth Tribulation warriors. He woke Tian Yazi up. Tian Yazi scanned with psychic power and snorted, "Get out of my way!" Tian Yazi's voice was not loud, but it exploded in the two's mind like a clap of thunder. They felt a stabbing pain in their souls and almost fell. Run! The two trembled in fear. Without any hesitation, they ran for their lives. Tian Yazi closed his eyes and went back to cultivation. Luli exclaimed, "Powerful warriors were powerful. One shout could scare away 2 Fifth Tribulation warriors, even though they were at the middle stage of the Fifth Tribulation. As a matter of fact, Luli could have dealt with them on his own. He hadn't tried the power of the horn yet, nor had he used the law of divine sound. That being said, he decided to play it safe. He was not here to kill people, but to find the Dragon Rebel race. The Godspeed boat moved on. It was a daunting experience, but not a dangerous one. Of course, with Tian Yazi here, there was no danger. Tian Yazi had reached the Lord of the Sixth Tribulation more than 10,000 years ago. He had been studying soul skills for the past 10,000 years. His attainments in soul skills must be horrifying. By nightfall, Luli had arrived at the Chilean Peak. It was not a peak, but a huge mountain range. This was the border between the Hall of Water Cloud and the Dragon Rebel race's territories. This had always been a battlefield. Boom, 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 boom. Before Luli got closer, he could already hear the sounds of explosions. Looking from the distance, He could see the sky at the center of the mountain range was being torn apart. The sky was filled with Xian energy. Suffocating air spread out. There was a faint smell of blood in the wind. Here we are. Tian Yazi sensed it. The Godspeed boat stopped, and he used psychic power to check. Lu Li was using the trace of Tao. He could sense Tian Yazi's psychic power was like a gust of wind. It was no different from regular wind. It was like he had returned to his natural state. Lu Li waited quietly. After a while, Tian Yazi nodded and said, "There are dragon rebel race warriors here, but they're not big shots. Most of them are young. The Hall of Watercloud seems to be young as well. But I think both sides have mobilized many warriors from their affiliated forces. Both sides have powerful warriors of the Lord Realm." Phew. Lu Li exhaled. He had come from a second heaven and crossed mountains and rivers. Finally, he was here. He was about to find the dragon rebel race. There were many young people there. Maybe Lu Ling was there. Well, brother Tian Yazi, shall we part ways here for now? Lu Li cupped his fists and said, "I will pay you a visit after I finish my business here." "Right, this Godspeed boat. Brother, you can use it. It is too flashy for me to use it now." "You don't need me to go with you?" Tian Yazi asked. He didn't directly say that he would take Lu Li there, but he was implying something. After all, two super forces were fighting over there. If Tian Yazi took Lu Li to the Dragon Rebel race, the Hall of Watercloud would misunderstand. On the off chance that a fight broke out, Tian Yazi's family would be implicated. Lu Li had the same idea. Now that he was here, it would be easy for him to meet the Dragon Rebel race. Even if the Dragon Rebel race didn't want to see Lu Ling, at least they would like to see him since he had the token of the Asmodean Lord. The Asmodean Lord would not lie. She had said that as long as Lu Li showed the token, the Dragon Rebel race would trade with him. No, it's okay that you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.